Guardian, we've picked up a high-gain transmission. Origin point is somewhere along the coast, near the Cosmodrome.
All right, man. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Cosmodrome Radio, episode 43. We are back once again, for a brand new episode for y'all. It is exciting to be back. We had a week, about a 2-week break, because last week, as y'all saw, we jumped into Crota's End on day one, and it was rather eventful, I would say. Rather eventful.
Therapy!
We all need therapy after that madness. Oh my god! Like Crota, we was all talking mess. We all treated Crota like he wasn't shit, and then they said, "Hey yo, we done made him the shit instead of just shit." And I have to.
Took that personal.
They took that real personal. And the thing was, I didn't want to believe Blackburn during the after party. I didn't want to believe him. And then something about it, the way he kept talking, I'm like, something don't seem right. And I started to warn people like, hey, be real careful when you go in here. It's gonna hurt. And then the minute you see that first pendulum just go whack, it was all said and done. But don't forget, folks, that you can listen to this podcast after the show, like probably the next day, over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those great places, Amazon Music and Audible. I don't know why they have it on Audible too, but you know what? If you want to listen to your audiobook and the show, you definitely can do that too. If you want to check out the brand new merch, you can hop over to shop.cosmodromeradio.com. We have our brand new Raid shirt. The Crota's End merch is there. Our mascot, Craig the Dragon, is trying to pick up a sword and mess with Crota, and Crota is confused. He's like, what are you doing? But so go check that out and support the show if you can. And make sure you follow us on Twitter at Cosmodrome Radio. But other than that, those are the semantics. We have a great show for you tonight, folks. We are one body short of a fire team, and we are ready to roll up into this raid discussion. We're going to touch on the twid from last week and a little bit of this week, and then we're going to dive straight into what's going on. So definitely just buckle up with us. We're going to get through this. My name is Panda the Paladin. I am recovering from being sick because Ohio sucks, but you know what? I'm still here. I'm kicking it to my, what is this? I got like 5 different angles here. So to my left, we have our special guest for the evening. She likes to be a PvP connoisseur over here, running people over in Metroplex, having a great time. Dirty Terminator, how you doing, girl?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Most def. You want to shout out where you be and whatnot?
I am in South Carolina. That's where I'm from.
like on like the interwebs and whatnot. Don't you dox yourself?
Damn it. You know, people. This is I'm always gonna make myself look so dumb. No matter what I do. My bad. You sound so professional.
Right.
I'm the village idiot.
Cool. No, that's cool.
Oh god. Oh, my bad.
No, you good.
Oh, I'm on TikTok and Twitch. Same name. Hello. Sorry.
Hell yeah. All right. And then to my right, we have the man who apparently suffered a whole stream with the dreaded lanterns and pendulums today, taking some of the clan as well as some of his followers in there today, and had a very well time. If anyone needs therapy after the raid, it's definitely Cajun. He went from being hella frustrated to going full Florida man on Crota after the contest mode went off.
We're gonna talk about that for sure. But I got some takes on the Crota. Like, don't get me wrong, freaking Crota. What Bungie pulled off, freaking comments galore. But hey, what's up, everybody? Hopefully, y'all are having a good day and y'all are ready for a good show.
All right. Then we have the number one fan of the pendulums, everyone's favorite Sherpa parent, Tower. How you doing? Oh, is Tower dead?
Oh, Tower's muted.
Towers, why are you muted? I think Tower's dead. Okay, Tower must be doing something. We'll come back to her. Then we have the president of the Zevil Rats fan club. He was our silent murderer in the raid. He has now christened himself Mothman after getting the new Hunter gauntlets this past few weeks. Dave, how you doing, bud?
I am Mothman. Nothing else need be said. Correct? I am
fair enough.
Mothman. Mothman is I.
Like
We
literally,
are
this
one
man
and the
just
same.
kept chucking names like a fiend, and he would just go Mothman, and it was the funniest shit, bruh.
You gotta keep spirits high.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm back for all my like super awesome fans to adore. You know, don't forget to sing your tribute to Zivu. That's
Especially
that
after
is-
this week, make sure you time to Zivu because the battle is commencing soon.
Oh,
doesn't seem very happy recently. So we gotta perk her up. You keep her happy.
All right. So Tower's headphones are currently like dying, so Tower will be with us shortly. So Tower, to shout out when you are back. Thankfully, everyone's cameras didn't go sideways when Tower just left. So I'm praising the heavens right now. So yes. All right. So, from last week's twin, we definitely do want to comment on the fact that Bungie has announced they are going to be finally retooling Stasis. After Stasis has been everyone's favorite, I made the joke previously that I forget what specifically it was, but like there are multiple different Jan Brady's of the Destiny fandom. But if anyone's the Jan Brady right now of the Destiny landscape, it is definitely Stasis, because Bungie hasn't been neglecting Stasis like it was the redheaded stepchild ever since Lightfall came out, and it has been horrendous. There's been diehard fans like me that has stuck with Behemoth for so long. And everyone's like, oh my god, Behemoth's busted in PvP. No, it's not. Stop it. You're abusing one fragment. Stop it. You're not funny. Like, Behemoth needs so much help. It's not even funny. Like, granted, do we still do crazy damage in, like, when it comes to boss damage occasionally for certain bosses? Yes. Riven hates me. But in general, I'm excited they're retuning some things. They said in last week's twin, for our Stasis lovers out there, we have some things coming in regards to Stasis abilities for Season 23. Not only will the seasonal artifact feature Stasis perks, but there will be also be Stasis ability changes coming, including Glacial Quake, Frost Pulse, Winter Shroud, Glacier Grenade, and more. When I hear that, my brain is concerned that Bungie's gonna nerf Glacial Quake rather than improving it. And I'm like, Bungie,
What?
don't play with me. Like, what? Don't touch my Glacial Quake. It's already barely functioning as it is. Like, still treat it with respect. So I don't know what could be going on with that. But like in general, I'm excited for Stasis to get some love, because it's felt like the only people who enjoy Stasis right now are Warlocks and PvP. Otherwise, no one's really touching Stasis, and it's kind of sad. Like even Silence and Squall has fell out of the PvE meta, and it's like, what's going on? So hopefully they address some of that. But I don't know. Like, T, how do you feel about Stasis might getting some love?
PvE wise, it needs a lot of love, especially like the Hunter Super, Silence of Squall. It does not need to be nerfed in PvE.
No.
At all. Like, I agree with you.
Okay, cool. Cajun, how you feeling?
So, I feel like Stasis has been the middle child for a while. So basically, Stasis came in, brand new freaking baby. Everybody loved it. Then everybody started to hate it because of freaking all the interactions.
Oh my god, it was horrendous.
And then the 3.0 subclasses came. Now, granted, I wasn't around for that, but it was like that was like the brand new child, the firstborn getting all the love now. And then we got Strand, and Strand's been all the rave, and Stacy's been off in the corner trying to play with the toys, and nobody's want to interact with it. But between some of the Stasis exotics getting reworks, number one, the fact, okay, it looks like Tower Mom's not going to be able to rejoin us, and the fact that, between the reworks, the fact that Stasis fragments are now in aspects are easier to get access to, that's a big plus.
Yeah.
I think next season, even right now, I've been talking to so many people using Stasis Warlock, using freaking Stasis Titan. I've actually got a Stasis Titan build that someone just put me on to.
Really?
Tomorrow I'm going to put together, because
if you tell me it's the Lance Cap, I'm gonna question you.
No, you ready for this? Feedback fence.
What?
Feedback fences are nice.
Well, like ever
feedback
since the rework, I've been questioning it because, like, I thought feedback fences were perfect for PvP, but then they're
Okay.
like, "Hey, we're gonna rework them in general," and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Banner of War with Fletch's Storm, feedback fence is a phenomenal freaking build for Strand. But
D2
someone
armor
pointed me and
picker.
said, "Hey, take a look at its interactions with Stasis. You can shut just about everything down in PvE."
Well, I'm about to be a happy snowboy in a minute.
I didn't know
'cause
that to use those for PvE. Huh.
Well, because what they did with the rework was they made feedback fence be dependent on armor charges. So like now, ever since the rework, they haven't really been a staple for PvP. That was my favorite Iron Banner build last season, was just cranking out with feedback fence because everyone wanted to rush you because of Fortress. But now, like when they announced the rework, I was kind of like, not really caring as much. But now that they're saying they're gonna rework it, I'm like, okay, maybe we might mess with it. We might mess around. So hopefully this rework might actually do some crazy shit. I might be at an armor picker after the podcast, but the screen looks whack for like 2 seconds because I'm turning streamer mode back on because tower popped in and I heard a beep and I'm like, ah.
Yep.
So
But
okay, streamer mode's back on. There we go.
I am looking forward to what
You're fine.
Bungie's going to bring to the table next season as far as stasis, as well as perks in the artifact that are going to be interacting. I think next season could really shake up and show that all the subclasses have a great viability in various aspects of the game that we
Most
haven't seen
definitely.
in a while. And that's going to be bringing, and that's also going to bring all these subclasses into a good position for final shape.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, really?
I-
David? You gonna be the
Oh,
contrarian?
Mr.
I'll be the
Negativity
contrarian this
Diva.
time.
Oh, he's the positivity diva.
I
What do
was
you
told
mean?
I was too positive last
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
What
Now I'm too
happened?
negative.
Now you're gonna be the
Oh, okay.
contrarian.
So the reason I say that is that I feel like there are viable builds for each subclass, for each guardian type, but I do not feel like they are equal. If you like some subclasses are only viable in PvP, while others are only viable in PvE.
That makes sense.
And I feel like that needs to be addressed. Like,
yeah.
Stasis is pretty chill because of the unshackling of Renewal's Grasp from
Yes.
hunters and stuff like some pretty cool stasis tools that they implemented in the game. Like, you can make some pretty decent stasis hunter builds, but genuinely nobody's gonna run that over something like Solar Strand or Void. But Void Hunter in PvP right now, not on your worst day.
I
not
mean,
on
it's
your
still
best day.
viable because of the invis.
It's viable,
Mhm.
but is it are you gonna pass up something like Arc, something like Strand for PvP? And that's kind of the issue that I think hunters and a lot of other classes deal with in the game, is that you have viable options for each subclass, but big picture wise, a lot of people aren't going to give up some of the other options, and that really just diminishes the viability of the classes altogether.
Well, with Void Hunter, it just depends on your build. Like, you can run Gemini Jesters with Invis and do just fine with the Chaperone.
Ooh,
I do
yeah,
that all the time.
Gemini.
But
Take away the radar.
Isn't Gemini at Xur right now too? Like that sounds terrifying.
Gemini Jester is actually really good with Arc too, but a lot of people don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you run it with a punchy build, you can really fuck people up. But
that's fair.
Yeah, that's build crafting. But legit, you still have to compete with other really good exotics and other really good builds. And that's not to say that a lot of people won't do that. I'm just saying, genuinely, I think Bungie needs to reevaluate the way that they build things for classes. I think hunters are too neutral game viable. They don't really have identity builds
But Dave, I want my stompies.
Oh God.
A piece of trash. If you need stompies, you should throw them in the garbage.
Take them off. Take them off.
Things are garbage.
I need my Stompies to survive, they'll say.
But that's the thing, though. Like, Stompies aren't that good. It's the same issue like Antaeus. There really aren't
Listen, hold on. Now you
genuinely-
speaking blasphemy. Now you
I
speaking
mean, seriously.
blasphemy.
like genuinely outside of like a couple niche picks.
See,
There
if you
really
said
aren't
Synthoceps, I can respect that comparison.
Uh,
But Antaeus are a little bit differently, where they're similar to, say, something like Gemini Jester or something like that, where they were hella niche and no one played with them. But ever since people saw, like, oh, you can counter things, you can actually do things with them. Because we were talking about before the show, how no one touched Antaeus, no one cared about Antaeus, but the first time they saw that you could block a main ingredient, it was off to the races, and everyone said we needed to have Antaeus. And I swear by that statement that nobody cared,
agree.
because Antaeus saw no buffs, no nerfs, no crazy thing going on since they were nerfed originally, because that shield used to be huge, and now it's like nerf Antaeus, but Antaeus didn't do shit. Antaeus was sitting in the corner. No one cared about Antaeus. But now that it can block a Nova Bomb, everyone's freaking the hell out. It's like, I'm sorry. I thought Antaeus was in everybody's vault. What happened?
like I said, Stompies is just like Antaeus. It's really only good because people found that it has like one niche use. It's not even that good of an exotic, honestly. It's just the buff that it provides allows people, hunters, to be a little bit better at the core mechanics of the game. That being moving and shooting. Like, outside of that, what else does it do? It
That's
just
fair.
makes your jump and your slide better. Like, legit. That's
Okay.
it. It does nothing exotic worthy, really. And that just allows a particular kind of playstyle. If you can get in people's face and throw off their fine motor movement, motor control, and like legitimately just kill them quickly with a shotgun or a fusion rifle or whatever. Like, yeah, Stompies are exceptionally good. But that's it. They don't do anything. That's why Bungie's having a problem nerfing it. Just like fucking Whale for Warlocks.
Well, we'll dive into that. That's going to be a discussion later, because that kind of ties into the entire discussion with Crota, because of that little tidbit we got from the PC Gamer article. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But we will definitely be having more of a PvP discussion next week, because before the show we decided to have T-Back next week and have sort of a PvP summit with some other friends. So we'll definitely have to have that discussion next week. So hold your thoughts on the Stompies there, David. And we'll be back to dissect that conversation, because hopefully T's 100 friends don't come in and bash your head in, because that might be a bad time.
There's
There's better exotics than Stompies.
All right.
Exactly.
I'm over here messing with my fucking something ring. All right. So the other thing that was like, speaking of the our little PvP summit that we're gonna have next week, Bungie's new PvP strike team, as they're calling it, like, wants your guys' feedback. If you haven't checked on Twitter and seen that, they want your guys' feedback of the state of PvP, and we'll be going through that thread as well as having our own discussion next week. So definitely look into that. Like, add your opinions to that thread, and we'll dive more into that next week. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is the armor set that Joe Blackburn had told us during his little Twitter video that people were going to get in the playlist, the core playlist, finally has been released with the newest patch, and you can go into Gambit, go into Strikes, go into Crucible and get this. I as somebody who's played over 20 matches of Iron Banner this week already, and is like things away from gilding his Iron Lord thing for the 5th time, I have gotten none of this yet. But and some people are frustrated by the drop rate. I don't really care, it's fine. But the armor looks nice. I think it looks cool. I will say that Bungie, you need to start doing this every season if you want to keep people interested, not just hand people a handout. That's just my opinion, because you see people sweating for this set right now. Like, you would have people encouraged for the first time in a hot minute to engage with your core playlist beyond the PvP sweats. People are actually giving a crap about this because you gave them something worth chasing beyond just like a random gun here and there. Because granted, the new Stasis Shira's Wrath knockoff that's in Crucible right now is pretty hot. I'll say that flat out. But like, the new Vanguard guns, or the new. I have what does Gambit even have this season? I haven't even played a game of Gambit yet this season, so it's like in general. Oh, okay. Like so, and that tells you because like no one's made a video, no one's cared about it, so it's like. So yeah, this is the first time
they don't support it no more.
I mean,
if ever you were wondering, this is why.
I still say it's a chicken before the egg situation when it comes to Gambit, but that's neither here nor there. But you know, and then I find this very contrary because Bungie's like, hey, send us a video of the people who pre-ordered the annual pass and show us your clips of Tessellation, the new pre-order exotic. And I'm like, Bungie, didn't you disable this for the day one raid because it was giving people infinite grenades? What happened to that? Like, you're telling people to advertise for you when it's glitched out like that? What? It feels a little weird, but okay. All right, so Crota returned to us this past week, and man, oh man, did he give us a can of whoop ass. Not only did we see some of the craziest teams racing to go in and see if they could get the new belt. Clan Elysium has come through for the 4th time and claimed that belt, and they have proven once again that they are not able to complete contest mode as well as challenge mode. And congratulations towards them. Hashtag you can die in a well. Well, that's an inside joke. But in terms of the entire debate, in terms of a like first impressions of it, both in contest mode and in like normal mode, I think as a hot take, this entire raid was Bungie saying we need to wake up the community again and establish what a raid is all about, because they knew they missed the mark with Root of Nightmares.
Yeah,
they knew they missed like some points with that, and they established that the position of ad clear is no more. You need to be on your toes. You need to communicate, and we're going back to the old raid formula. And as we saw, this contest mode had the highest completion, or like the lowest completion since Last Wish, or no, since Garden. Since Garden in terms of completion rate. Not just like overall, like just an overall completion rate of since Garden. And that tells me right there that we're in a healthy place where we are establishing contest mode back to what it should be. And the thing is, between me and Cajun and Dava, because we were all doing contest mode, we didn't even finish. Crota whooped our asses. We couldn't even get through the first run. And like the majority, and all three of us said, hey yo, for the most part, this is how it should be. Like we have some like differing of opinion, and we're gonna discuss that. But overall, I will say flat out, this is just how contest mode should be. Like regardless of how you feel about the challenge mode, like the challenge having to go back in and do the challenges, this was perfect. This was right on the nose. That like this established that you need to have your build perfect, you need to have your communication perfect, you need to have your game sense perfect, because they made you worry about that chalice. I saw a meme on TikTok where someone had like SpongeBob like with a bomb strapped to him, where he's like telling Gary he needs to take a bath, and like if the bomb's gonna blow up, he doesn't take a bath real quick. That's how that freaking thing felt. If you didn't like get that off somebody, they were gonna explode, and it was your fault, or it was their fault for not communicating correctly that they were about to blow up. So I love that mechanic entirely. So that's just overall opinion, real quick, before we dive into the overall discussion. T, you are our guest. How did you feel about going into this raid?
I was pleasantly surprised. Me and my friend Void, we ran D1 Crota just as a refresher. Like 2 weeks before, and honestly, I was like, oh, this only took 21 minutes, right? We get in a contest mode. Hell no. It took us like 2 hours to get the lantern because we kept dying repeatedly. The pendulums, the meatballs were awful. And then like the low light level too, and the champs, and the thing is what makes this raid so much better than the other raids is that everybody is always having to do something, and that's what Destiny 1 had, and that's what Destiny 2 sort of lacked a little bit. So nobody was just sitting there doing nothing in the raid besides shooting ads.
Exactly. Okay.
It was impressive.
Tower, you went in with us post contest mode, and even you were getting swung around by those meatballs for a fun time. How did you feel about your overall thoughts of this raid?
So, having not done D1 Crota, I knew about Crota because I had done the Dark Below story missions and stuff, but I really enjoyed it, even though, yes, I was getting frustrated at the stupid lanterns and the fucking meatballs. But I actually really enjoyed the experience. The only gripe that I have is the fact that Bungie has made the Essence of Oversoul RNG based. It is one Oversoul guaranteed per account per week, and then the rest is all
RNG based.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
they confirmed it on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
I'm not happy with that. I think at the very least it should be 2 guaranteed per week.
I think it should be 2 per character, to be honest. Especially if they're gonna make it 20 per for the gun, and then 30 for the whatchamacallit.
No, it's another
50 for the catalyst.
For the catalyst.
Oh yeah, no. It should be like 2 per character, not 1 per account. That means casual players, if they can't find a raid group, they're gonna take them an eternity just to get that gun.
Even with our raid group and the fact that we've been running Crota a lot, I got 4 on my first clear, and then since then I have only gotten a 2.
Dang.
I should not have to be raiding multiple times a week and not even be guaranteed. At the very least, even if they don't make it RNG based, it should at least be 1 per clear guaranteed.
I think it should, if anything, should be 1 per encounter. So yeah, no, it's a little weird like that. Now
that would be on the higher end, 1 per guaranteed per encounter, but at the very minimum, 1 per clear. The absolute minimum, not 1 per account per week that's guaranteed.
Right, because I can see them not wanting people to abuse it, like do Crota farms or something like that. But 1 per clear or 1 per character would make a lot of sense per week. Not making it 1 per account. It feels a little odd to do that.
Yeah.
So, now we have a new fan club to establish. That I thought about this before the podcast. The president of the Ear Ute fan club, Cajun. How you doing there? How you doing post raid?
I'm gonna tell you right now. Yeah, Crota freaking had us freaking nailed down to the ground and made us his bottom during contest mode. But when I tell you the tables turned the moment freaking contest mode was over, yeah, you dubbed it correctly. While I may never have lived in Florida any time in my life,
he became Florida man.
I channeled Florida man, and if you want to, I've got a room full of witnesses to this. When I say I demanded to be the one to clear both towers,
the boomers found out.
I went ham, freaking going from tower to tower, coming back down to the arena, killing everything in sight because of pure spite.
The minute he could put his foe tracer back on, it was on.
It got worse. It got worse when I got my strand build rolling, and that was freaking it. It's nah. I have gone into that raid a couple of times already, and I've told people, be like, hey, if y'all want to focus on the bottom, I got tower. And they're like, no, you can't. I was like, bet. I am that guy. I am that crazy, and I'll do it.
He definitely did.
Shotguns go boom.
He's built a little different.
He's built a little different. He channeled his inner Florida man there. It was very impressive.
God, when we saw that damage freaking score at the end of freaking
he was the top damage score. He was hitting 6 mil multiple times, and it was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But so contest mode felt freaking amazing. Like, look, I know we didn't get past freaking Crota. That should be a testament of how freaking difficult. And when raid reports came out and showed us the stats on that completion rate, not just for normal, but also for the challenge clear, that spoke volumes to what Bungie did. Now, there were a lot of people, and I had to correct some people that just flat out said Bungie didn't do anything different. All they did was freaking up the light level. No, they didn't.
They didn't.
If you go back to the showcase, Blackburn touched on this. He said that they want to get the raid for Final Shape perfect. They want to get it good. But in order to do that, they need to do an experiment, and they use Crota's End for that. This was the first time ever in the contest mode in which they added more shields. They freaking made the AI, the mobs, more aggressive than ever.
They added new mechanics with the pendulums because they weren't in D1.
The raid itself, yes, they added new mechanics. They redid everything while keeping a lot of the original. But the thing is that for the contest mode, they also capped our damage. Now, like I said, all these experiments were for the first time ever in a contest mode. So this set the freaking stage to what to expect come freaking Final Shape raid, whatever that is going to entail. But even then, the raid itself, Crota's End, kind of redefines what type of raids to expect from Bungie.
I definitely agree with that.
Because the very first encounter is a wake-up call to everyone, okay? To all you ad clears out there. No.
The age of ad clear is
you better start learning mechanics because you will need to. Yes. Okay, for all you people, hi, I'm one of them that suck at jumping puzzles. Guess what? You kind of really need to get a little bit better because this is where the end game is starting to get to. And we're not saying this as the gatekeeper. We're telling you this to prep you and make you aware of what you're getting into. Exactly. Crota's End is a day and night scenario from D1 to D2.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, and like they even the bridge, like other than having to literally use strand mechanics to shoot yourself into the up into the skybox to drop down, you can't cheese the bridge. You can't cheese or solo the first encounter. The low man groups have established you cannot solo the first encounter. You can like solo, duo, and trio the other encounters, but I don't think you can't even solo the bridge. I don't think they have made it very hard to toy with this raid. You can do a lot of things. You can solo Crota. Solo Crota's already been done. It's like that they've established this. It took like a half an hour, I believe. But like they've established certain things of you're not doing solo and lanterns. It's not going to happen. And I appreciate that they put challenge back into this where you have to rely on the teammates the way the raid is supposed to be. So now, Deva, the silent Mothman of the raid, the contrarian.
I'm not contrarian. I'm just looking at this. I'm trying to be objective here.
Okay.
And objectively, whilst I do agree, like the difficulty of contest mode, Crota's End was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I had fun. I do think it was a bit skewed in what it's supposed to be. I think they need to redefine what it is the contest mode is supposed to do. Like, I feel like if Crota's End was built like Ron, in the sense of like you complete the raid, all encounters of the raid, you get the emblem, and that's it. Sure, I feel like it would have been perfectly fine. However, that's not what this particular raid was. Like, completing the raid was not the goal. It was completing challenge mode, right?
Right.
And with that being the like objective marker for what the raid was supposed to be for day one, I feel like it was too hard. And I feel like Bungie could definitely dial it in a couple ways without necessarily changing how they did it, but just changing like the way that they handled the contest modifier this time around. I
Interesting.
think since beating the raid on normal mode was the buy-in to get to challenge mode, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll call a spade a spade. Half the people that cleared it, I'm not gonna say half, a lot of teams that cleared the normal mode were just teams that wanted Necrochasm
Yeah.
because Necrochasm was like guaranteed. So a lot of them just went and got Crota checkpoints, beat Crota, and then walked the fuck away and didn't care.
Which
And
I think
I
was
feel
a
like-
cool incentive for a lot of people. Like, hey, you may not get the emblem, but you get the gun for free. Other people have to like do the quest for it. I think that was a cool incentive.
It was I think it's a very interesting way to handle it. Like personally, I think it's really cool. Like, sure, going forward, make the day one clears, get the exotic guaranteed. I think that'd be fucking dope. But you got to put some fucking like requirements on that. You can't just go to the boss, beat the boss, get the thing.
That's fair. Like it should have like you should have had to do the whole checklist like in the triumph in the way like everybody else had to get the door to challenge mode for that. I definitely agree with that statement. Yeah.
But my thing is, I feel like they even just by changing the way that they handled it, by making Necrochasm the like reward for completing challenge mode, you get Necrochasm for free, guaranteed, and changing it from that and giving the emblem on completing the normal mode. I think that would have definitely made this difficulty a lot more worthwhile because teams that really put in a lot of work just to get through normal mode and didn't actually make it through challenge mode, they walk away with effectively nothing.
They got the gun.
Show for their,
That's
they got
very
the gun,
true.
but the gun, people are gonna have it in like what, 2 to 3 weeks from now. Everybody's gonna have
Possibly,
a gun. So then what do you have to show that you did the right?
That's fair. And like you mentioned this on Tuesday, and I wanted to like speak on this because I touched on it a little bit when we were on stream, and I think the way like you're putting this is like the deck is sort of stacked against it because the comparison I gave was Vogue and King's Fall. If you look back at contest Vogue and the challenges that were put there, the challenges were very difficult. But the difference between Vogue's challenge mode and say Crota was we were in a broken meta. We had double slugs doing tons of damage, and we had Anarchy at its prime. And we had Anarchy at its prime when Breach and Clear was a thing.
Yeah.
Ergo, Atheon got melted. Like, if you go watch the contest mode footage for that day, Atheon got deleted. It wasn't even a joke. Like, you go back and watch like those teams race for that. You go watch Evan's video, deleted both times, both like contest mode regular and contest mode challenge. Atheon didn't stand a chance. Same thing with King's Fall. King's Fall had the objective difference of it was pre-divinity nerf. And it was like Taipan, because Taipan had just been brought into the meta with Witch Queen. Everybody had access to it. Everyone had an enhanced firing line and an enhanced triple tap. And they had different mods that were still in play, like the different elemental like the elemental well modifiers that were boosting everybody's damage because like you were able to throw a stasis ability or throw a void ability, get a giant boost of damage. I forget what the mod was called. But like everybody had access to that, so they were able to mow down Oryx and the Daughters really quickly. And versus here, where you have a variety of different weapons, but no clear DPS strat was the top pick. Like you had Izzy swapping rockets, you had rockets, you had linears, you had Thunderlord make a reappearance. There were like you had like hell, even this past week, which I can't believe is a thing right now. The Deepstone Crypt Sword has come back from and pulled the craziest resurrection of all time and
it
said,
came
"Hey
out
yo,
of freaking left field and said, hey, remember me?"
Like it straight up said, "Hey yo, I finally have relevance and showed that it's a competitor for to go into this raid. Like the difference between Vogue, King's Fall, and Crota here, they all had the same requirement of go in, complete the base raid, and then go back in for challenge to get the emblem. But the difference is they had broken metas applied to them. If say they were a little bit different, like say Breach and Clear was disabled for Vogue, and like Anarchy was disabled for Vogue, Vogue would have been a whole different ball game. Same thing with freaking King's Fall. If those elemental well mods wouldn't have been in play, and Taipan would have got disabled or something like that, whole different ball game. So I feel like the challenge was still there. The same requirements were applied for all three scenarios, but the difference is Crota is the only one that wasn't put in a real in a busted situation, and I think that's why it's judged differently.
Otherwise,
okay.
That being that, what King's Fall and what was it? Vogue didn't have such a eye on capping power. Like Vogue, legitimately, there was no system in place to cap levels to ensure players remained at a specific power level.
Contest mode said
mode was there, but there was no
there was a specific gauge for all three where they said like here's your entry gate. Here's your entry gate of it was like 1600 or 1350 or something like that for all three.
Yes.
And then they said, hey, it doesn't matter what your level is, it's always gonna be 20 power ahead of you. It was always the same scenario.
That didn't come out until Ron.
No, ever since Vogue has been
20 levels ahead.
You know, it's been there since Vogue.
Yep.
I think it's been there since Deepstone, actually. I think it's been there since either Deepstone.
I think that has been since Deepstone.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I remember that being like a really big talking point around Ron.
No, because I remember specifically with Vogue.
You're going to go in and power, because the power delta didn't become a thing of your power being capped at a specific level, and enemies, no matter what, will be above that until season of the fucking Seraph.
I legitimately contest mode was specifically a thing, even pre Beyond Light. But the light delta was always there. I remember it was specifically a talking point with Vogue, where they had specifically even said, we're gonna give you a wide margin because this is a returning raid. We want a lot of people to be coming in with this. So even if you're a returning vet and you have to come in at 1300 something or 1200 something, you can still come in, but it'll always be 20 light ahead of you, no matter how high you get, because they knew even back then the whole meta was crank your artifact 100 plus and get higher like it was GMs. And even then they said it doesn't matter if it's higher, you're 20 levels permanently above. Ever since I believe Vogue specifically, it's been like that. And then when Season of the Seraph came out, it was like, hey, this seasonal activity is gonna have it where it's 5 levels above. That's where they started to play with that dynamic in seasonal content.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. But yet and still, even if that was the case, Crota's Inn is a far more engaged, opposed to the fact that they were playing around with the idea of capping damage, as far as making sure players weren't allowed to deal massive amounts of damage to bosses to ensure those 2 to 3 phase boss damage, even at the best of the best had to do 2 to 3 phases just to kill Crota. Where that's not necessarily a thing in a lot of raid races. But yet and still, that being what it is, the difficulty for this, I think, just to buy in and get to the challenge mode, if the challenge mode is supposed to be the creme de la creme of challenge, that's supposed to be when you're testing to see where players are good and players are bad. If the average player that attempted this couldn't get to it, that is indicative of the difficulty that you put in. if this was a random, just beat all the encounters, start to finish, and you get the emblem, you've done it, like everybody clap and cheer, you succeeded. Sure, I think this would be the perfect amount of difficulty. But the challenge mode was the finish line, and for only 10% of players to engage with your finish line or even get to attempt the second half of the relay race, if you will, that is a display of this is too much difficulty. I think if they had just made it like 10 levels of like power delta on normal and then master would be 20, I think that'd be fair. That way people can get through the raid, learn the encounters, and then players can engage with the master contest mode. Sure, I think that's fair. Or, like hell, since most people were just going for the fucking necrochasm, like I said, make it to where you have to go through the entire raid. There's no reason why the vast majority, a large majority of players struggle on one simple encounter for 10 plus hours. Not even that this team isn't competent, but just genuinely from a solo player to like partially made up fire teams, like having to explain to people, like, all right, this is how we're going to do this encounter. Give it a couple attempts, and those people leave, and you got to find somebody else. Hey, this is how we're going to do this encounter.
That's a different
right
dynamic.
there,
That's a different dynamic because
that is
LFG
general-
teams are a whole different ball game. Like we've established previously that LFG teams are always a gamble with day one rates. Hell, we experienced that with Ron. Ironically enough, even though Ron was easier, that LFG teams are horrendous for day one raids. That's been a testament as long as contest mode of day one raids has been a thing. That like I remember back watching clips of Crown of Sorrow and like LFG teams were a nightmare. So I think like judging by LFGs is a bad way to put that. But like
I'm not judging just by LFGs though. I'm saying that LFGs should be considered in your data when you look at things. Because the vast majority of players attempting this content aren't all pre-made fire teams. Just like the vast majority of players who attempt to go flawless aren't all pre-made fire teams.
Ooh, you dabbling down in the PvP, and I feel like Cajun and team about to come at you.
Like, look, I'm just saying, like, genuinely, a large portion of the Destiny community are solo players, are players without homes, as I call them. You know, they don't have a clan, they don't have very many friends because people come and go in the game. So for them to want to engage, it's not that they aren't competent players, but one of the biggest, hardest parts of day one rating or contest mode rating is finding a team and fighting against the stuff that comes from the outside of the raid. Like making sure people are on time, making sure people got sleep, making sure you have a team that's competent, finding people to fill in the holes when people have life happen to them because, you know, shit happens. People got kids, people got families, people got work in the morning. Like, yeah, I got today off, but I got to go to work tomorrow. And if you fixate your like difficulty modifier to like fixate around professional players and teams at the like utmost echelon to ensure that they get a challenge, you have made a difficulty that is far exceeding that of the average player that is attempting to do the content.
I'm gonna let Cajun pipe in, but I'll come back to that. I'm gonna come back to that last statement. I'm gonna let Cajun hop in on this real quick.
All right. So for those that don't know, I've been playing freaking games for a long ass time. I'm 42 years old and I've played everything first person shooters to MMOs. So I have seen every type of freaking raid, every type of freaking, you know, group activity, okay, from various different scales, okay. And the best way to compare the day one race for, you know, in Destiny 2 is to world first racing raid race in World of Warcraft. Okay. But here's where I will give props to Destiny because they do it a little bit better. They have a set window. Even if the world first is completed, it's a set contest window. So this is a chance for anyone And I say this, anyone that puts together a team to go in and to challenge themselves. Okay, this is a set point. Now, I've got my own opinion about the contest mode that I'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm going to say this. Anyone, if they put together a team, can go and experience contest mode.
Yes.
If you go in and experience it and you complete it, congratulations, good on you.
Yeah.
Your team not only had the communication, the skill, and the preparation to go in and get the win. Okay, that's great. But this is going to be for a lot of my casual players. This is going to be for a lot of my new into rating players or those that have never done this type of content. If you got to experience it, you got to experience it. Okay, take what you learned. Take a second, reflect, because right now, as a day one team, we're having to do that ourselves. We're having to reflect because we want to give Final Shape the freaking better college try and get that win.
Most def.
Now, when it comes to Crota and when it comes to King's Fall and freaking
Vogue.
Vault of Glass, they had to initiate the challenge mode for a reason because they, even with the new mechanics and the reworks, everyone still had an idea or could go back to D1 and get an idea of what the raid was going to be like.
Yeah.
They had to rework it and they had to put it in because if not, World First raid would have been over.
2 hours.
It would have been 2 hours.
Easy.
They had to put in that challenge mode. And that wasn't just for, the D2 players. That was also for the veteran players as well.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I get where you're saying that they're putting in content for a lot of the higher skilled players. They do have to engage with that community, but think of it like this. Look at it at the long term, okay?
Okay.
If you keep the difficulty at a set pace, eventually as people grow in skill, when they meet that and they can't find anything more difficult, they're going to look elsewhere. And by elsewhere, I mean other games. So you always have to, as a game company, you have to be willing to set the bar higher and higher. And that's a case point when it comes to Crota's End, even outside of contest mode. This is really starting to show that like I said, that first encounter is really setting the bar
of what you got to do as a team.
What you have to do as a team. So I'm going to say respectfully, I disagree. They should not have made the normal encounter of contest mode easier. What they did set the stage.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and this is one of those cases. If you're just getting into rating, or like maybe you've done one contest mode before and you took another crack at it and you didn't succeed, this isn't it was too hard type scenario. You need to reflect and say, what can I do to be better? What could I have done to prepare for this? Because this isn't something you just walk into. I mean, Panda was telling people, don't just walk into us thinking that you're going to succeed.
Right.
Get ready. It's going to be a slap in your face. And it really was,
felt like,
even for us.
Yeah, it felt like I kept telling everyone, like, don't stick your hand in the light socket. It's going to hurt. And there were people coming to me after the raid, and were because I hopped into a couple of our clan mates during the raid. I hopped in. It was like, hey, you guys need a 6 real quick. You're at Crota. Cool. Let me help you. And they were like, Panda, we shouldn't listen to you. And I was like, I tried to tell you, like, you fucked around and found out. Like, this shit isn't for everyone. And I want to see what T thinks about this in a second, because like the one thing I remember, like Dado said last year, with Ron, where the day one contest mode, like day one, day two, whatever you want to call it. This is the one time a year where hardcore players are challenged. This is the one time. Everything else throughout the year, whether it be like dungeons, seasonal activities, whatever, is wrapped around for casual players. Even with like the most other they get really is like exotic missions, because like we all saw, Wicked Implement was a freaking slap in the groin for everybody at first. Like that was the one time this past year where everyone kind of got challenged, but in reality, contest mode is their one thing, their one shot to sweat, and that's for them. Everything else is for like casuals and everything else. Like granted, GMs are for like upper middle class folks, so that's sort of become what GMs are to a certain extent, and masters are sort of for them as well. But even right now, we're dealing with a situation where master content isn't really appealing unless you're going for the seal, because the weapons aren't as appealing, despite being able to be enhanced perks, aren't as appealing as crafted weapons. So you look at a situation like contest mode where there's a definitive challenge that can't be altered, can't be out leveled in any way. And that's their sweat time. That's their way of going and proving their mettle and showing they can do this. And that's for them to have a fun time and do that and put their mettle to the test. And we warn people, hey, this is going to suck. This is going to be a rough time. And you need to prepare yourself. You need to have good communication. You need to have the right kind of setup, the right build, the best way possible. You can't zone out. You have to be on the ball. And that even happened to us a few times where people would zone out. They would die because they weren't warning people about the chalice. And we were all victims of that. So, I think the bar is set specifically where it needs to be at. Because Caitlin's right. If Crota would have just been one run, and everybody would have just like gotten their emblem and left and been done, Salt and Grandpa would have been out of there in 2 hours. It'd have been over, wrapped, done with. He'd have been off the bed. And
then we would have been back to the whole freaking complaint that we've been hearing.
This is my question.
For all this time, is the game's too easy. So them going back to the reprise raids and putting that challenge mode there, that you have to get this challenge mode done to get the emblem, is the establishment to do that.
Okay. So herein lies my question. Like, you say that the game or day one rating is built specifically for a specific, like, top echelon, like the fucking Olympics of gaming hardcore Destiny players.
That's kind of what was already established. Yeah, like that's been established since about like I believe since about like Scourge and Crown was where that was sort of like mainly established. Or not. Let's say about Last Wish, like around that era, the Forsaken / years like end of year 1 of Destiny 2. Was where you really saw that become a thing, where people would delete characters to grind levels and reapply characters and stuff like that. You saw the raid race. If you go back and watch like MNF's content, he showcases how you had belts and people racing for that kind of content. That's what that was already established to be. You saw people when Beyond Light came out with Deepstone having to literally delete characters and rerun the Beyond Light campaign to grind levels and figure out what was still allowed in the game because of sunsetting. That's what they were putting their mettle to the test to establish that. So contest mode is established for that upper echelon of the player base, and that's fair.
That is
I feel that way.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would call a spade a spade. It's just high article shenanigans, in my opinion, because it devolves into I did it, therefore I am better player. And
the people that are, I'm going to say this, the people that are saying, because you couldn't clear it, you suck. Those are the toxic individuals.
Right. Like, flat out. Like, I had a couple of those in my TikTok comments this past week that were saying shit like that.
This is the kind of thing that it devolves into.
Those are the people that run into PvP and start posting your KDs because they have no comeback.
Ooh.
I agree. I perfectly agree. But that's what I'm saying. This is the kind of thing that it leads to. You demerit the actual value of it because people stop looking at it as this is supposed to be our time to have fun, and people start looking at it as this is my time to show that I'm better. And that is why I am a firm believer of set a standard of what a player is supposed to be able to do.
They kind of have
like a
though.
Dark
Like,
Souls
they
game.
have though
Like,
David. That's
you
what I'm saying.
can't
Yeah,
make the
they've done that.
difficulty be, hey, this is supposed to be hard for the top 2% of players in the game, and then be like, everybody else has to meet the top 2% of players' ability to be able to beat this. That
Okay.
is,
But it's
in and
only
of
one or two
itself,
things.
illogical. Like,
Tower,
even
what do
if
you
you
think?
were to make that,
Hold on, David. Tower, what were you gonna say? I want Tower to speak on this because she's if anyone's the queen of the casual player here, Tower can really give her perspective on this. I want to hear what she wants to say. And then she got quiet. What happened? Tower, no. Tower.
What? I'm
No.
not saying that it needs to be so casual that anybody can do it, but I do not believe in balancing a game solely for 10% of the game to have fun. That
Well,
just
but
doesn't
here's the
exist.
thing. Here's the thing. You're
Like,
talking
even
about.
if you were to do something like that with like Dark Souls, right?
But here's
Dark
the thing,
Souls
you're-
is like the penultimate like group of games where people are like, if you can't beat Dark Souls, you just need to get good.
I feel like you're doing a chicken before the egg. You're judging the community based off of bad eggs. I want to get your perspective as well. Tower figures her audio out though. Like I want to like get your like especially because David has one of the PvP toxicity side of this. Like, what do you think?
I feel like a lot of the times when we come to issues that people are better is mainly ego, but there has to be a happy medium, and I feel like that's where Destiny 2 becomes a struggle between like what's a challenge and then what's too casual, and they're constantly going too far one way or the other. I also noticed that with like end-game content, things are being nerfed at bigger players' perspectives. Like for example, Divinity. That was really funny to me. I didn't understand why it was being nerfed to begin with, but I mean that's my take on it with like endgame PvP. I just think that yes, it's supposed to be challenging, but at the same time, like you can't just cater to like the top 2%, like you said. And sometimes I feel like they do that about 50% of the time.
I think it's like a 80-20 where it's like I think they do a pretty good job of it though, because like you have seasonal activities, you have dungeons and things of that nature that are broken up. Hell, up until like Season of the Seraph, you never saw a base content thing be 5 levels permanently above everybody. You never saw it. We even saw with Season of the Seraph, you saw casual players voicing their concern with Bungie where this was too hard. I remember when Season of the Defiance came out, people were saying, Bungie, this is too hard from jump. Like if you match made those first couple Defiant battlegrounds, ooh, God help you. Those were rough.
Yeah.
So like I understand that perspective, but it's like if that's if day one rating, excuse me, if it's like the one shot, do not let miss a chance to blow type of situation where like that's your one time a year to ball out and show your stuff. And Bungie has made it pretty clear since Vogue that like, hey, this is gonna be your permanent light level. Then that should be a thing. Now, what I would it sort of challenge though, we even saw it in our Discord server where people like who are very casual player based that don't have good armor, don't have a good perspective on the game, that are very casual player based, only do strikes, only play with a certain group of people, go in and think they're just gonna ball out. And they get their privilege checked. That's how it should be. You go like you're allowed to go in the door. You're allowed to go in the door. But if you get your teeth kicked in, that's how you learn. You go back, you figure out what you did wrong, like we did, and you figure out how to correct yourself for the next time. And I think that's very fair.
The thing that I'm saying isn't that the casual players who don't raid should be able to come in and absolutely like ball out. I'm saying that it shouldn't be like balanced solely for the enjoyment of the top like 10% of players that like literally play this game as their day job, right? Like, yeah, if you want to make it to where like it's balanced for the top 20, top 30% of players, sure, because then it's an obtainable goal.
But like that's
And
what
if
we saw
you
though.
come
Only
in-
40,
It's-
only
it's-
44%
you come
of
in-
humanity completed it.
It's still obtainable though, and that's
It's
what
an
it's just
obtainable
it is good.
goal being that of like actually getting to the end. I
Can
do
I-
not think that this was obtainable at all. In the
Can I-
general sense
oh,
of,
sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just want to ask everybody in here: do you know anybody that you know personally that got a day one Crota clear?
I know one. I know a person personally.
I've actually got 2 people that I know.
I know only one.
One of them's in our Discord. Text
That's sad, though, in a way, because at least you
Kinda,
could get
yeah.
like 2, 3 people per person. But it's sad, we're like, oh, 1, 2.
But at the same time, though, like,
It's
go ahead.
because
I
a lot
want
of
to let you finish.
I don't think anything should be a handout. However, I do think that, some things need to adjust it to like realistic standards because not everybody, people can play this game every day, but not everybody has the same time to dedicate like these top end players do. It's not like they want to be casual, they just don't have the time.
Right.
Like, people got families, jobs, things like that that they have to tend to other than the game.
Then
But even some of the top tier top tier players, some of them do have jobs. Some of them do have responsibilities and families. They're not. Some of these players are not sitting down playing it 24/7, and that's where a lot of people really need to. I'm gonna reference Fallout Plays because in the PvP
Okay.
thread with Bungie, a lot of people made assumptions that because a streamer makes a suggestion, that Bungie's going to listen to them. So it's that automatic, hey, streamer here, bad. So I'm going to say this. That's where it kind of feels like we're putting this echelon of higher skilled players, bad because of contest mode, got a low completion rate.
Well, I'm not
I
saying
don't.
that.
Okay,
I'm not even implying
we
that.
get
I'm not saying that it's hard.
I said that.
mode.
Sorry.
We get
No,
a
no,
contest mode
it's okay.
twice a year right now
Yes.
with the reprise rates. That's twice a year for everybody in the community that decides to jump in, give it a shot to test their
Yes.
metal. Okay.
Yes.
It's for everyone. Okay. Now realize this raid, right? This Crota's End, free to play.
Yes.
Free to
That's
play.
another thing too.
So
Yes.
that meant that anyone had a shot at it.
It's not like with Lightfall where you had to buy into it.
Oh,
Right.
God.
Right. So everyone had the opportunity. But could they have adjusted the difficulty a little less? Yes. Possibly.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think that this one in particular was in a really good position. Could they lessen the dial just a little bit at Final Shape? Oh, more. It's possible. It's possible given the fact that, it's Final Shape. We don't know.
I want to amend what Cajun said as well. Not only do we get 2 per year, one of them is brand new and one of them is reprised. And on top of that, what do you offer the hardcore players that race to get the challenge mode done beyond the seal? Because once the raid race is over and once contest mode is over, everybody has access to the seal, similar to what you're saying about freaking Necrochasm, where yes, people can complete base contest Crota and get Necrochasm, but so will a few people in a few weeks. Here in a few weeks when Master Mode comes out, everyone's gonna have access to the seal. What do you award?
The day one seal is locked behind.
No. I'm not saying not the emblem, not the emblem. The seal, like the sword breaker seal. What do you award the people who because anybody can get the seal in 2-3 weeks when Master comes out? Because if you look at the seal, people have to complete Master challenges to get that. So what do you award the people after Elysium that get the challenges done? Like that's why the whole thing with the reprised raids was established. Of hey, we know this is old content. We know you have some familiarity with it, so obviously you're gonna knock this out and boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. What there needs to be some other completion criteria to get the emblem. Otherwise, everybody that mama can come through this with the right team. So what do we award them?
That in and of itself is a skewed opinion, though. Like, if correct me if I'm wrong, Are you saying that once the raid race is over, people are just gonna like bulldoze over the content, even with the contest modifier? Or are you
You
saying
know,
that people
you know,
will just without the contest modifier
So
will just
I'm
bulldoze over?
so I'm saying that once the raid race is over, contest mode is still applied, and
Okay.
to get the emblem, you have to still complete the challenges. So if we remove the criteria of what, like if we move the emblem to base contest mode, what incentive is there to do the challenges? What incentive is there to complete the challenges once somebody crosses the finish line? There is none. Like you just bust out Crota and you take your ass to bed. So
That's why I said that
what
you put the
incentive is
necrochasm
there? So
there.
you
The
say,
necrochasm.
but the
Move the
necrochasm was already given to the for completing Crota.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, like move necrochasm from just completing Crota to completing master, and move the emblem from the master to Crota. Like literally,
So-
just switch the rewards.
So
That way,
that's
players
ass
who
That's
backwards.
want
fair.
to beat it,
That's ass backwards for
people
what you
who
just said though,
want to
because
show that they completed the raid on fucking day one when it was at its hardest,
but
just normal, like
that's
like
like
any other normal raid would be. Like
but
any
that
new raid that comes out would have, you wouldn't have to go through the master mode. You would literally just come in, beat the raid, beat all the encounters, and then you get the emblem.
But that's ass backwards to what you said earlier, where you said, "Hey, the necrochasm is going to be accessible to everybody
Accessible.
in a few weeks. So what's the problem? Like where's the reward?" I'm saying the like everything with the challenge mode. Those challenges will have to be completed in a few weeks for the seal. So what reason is there to do those challenges in contest mode when you can do them in a few weeks for master?
Legitimately, it's really
It's the
just
same.
coming down
It's the
to
same thing.
it really comes down to a convenience thing. Players will always, like when loot's on the line, you will always see players come out for loot that they deem reasonable and a guaranteed raid exotic to go through the challenge mode. And I feel like that's reasonable, especially with how Bungie handled the necrochasm. Was it the oversold shenanigans? I feel like you beating it on master and getting a guaranteed necrochasm is a reasonable like experience because you have the banner that shows you beat it on day one, and you like, look, I also got necrochasm. I get to play with it. I get to make all my videos on it, like everybody's doing in the 24-hour like news cycle right now. Like legitimately, you got the raid exotic without the hassle to do the thing that you were gonna do anyway. The vast
Okay.
majority of people that actually completed or even attempted master, I would argue, were the raid racers altogether.
Don't take the wrong way, David, but I feel like you're the kid at the Chuck E. Cheese counter trying to pick their prize. Like
I'm not saying that.
Like
look,
that's what that feels
this is
like. Is that like you're
this
trying to
is
pick your
my
prize
opinion.
rather than like because if we would have completed Crota, we'd have got necrochasm.
Yeah,
And like and that'd have been our
and I
prize. But you're
would have been
saying
happy, but I would far rather
you want the
not.
emblem.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, look, necrochasm's cool and all, and personally, if I had gotten necrochasm, I'd be okay. But I don't feel like this is the same level of difficulty. This isn't like something like Ron or Wish or Garden, where
I feel like
when
this
the
is
raid
comparable to
comes out,
Garden and Wish. I feel like this is
like
comparable to Garden and Wish.
just, I mean, in the sense of how like the day one went.
Okay.
When most day one raids come out and they're new raids, it is legitimately, if you can complete the raid on under the contest mode modifier, you get the banner, right?
So do you
For
think
most
King's Fall
new
and
raids.
Vogue should have been the same way?
I feel like they should have been the same way. If you can complete the raid under contest mode, you should get the banner. And there should be some other prize, a guaranteed exotic, if you can do it on challenge. And I feel like that's fair. You circumvent RNG, you get the raid exotic, and you get the emblem. You get to play with it before everyone else. People always love convenience. Sure, hey, cool, fine.
It's an
Or they
interesting
could
take. I'll give you that. It's an interesting take because, like, I hear you
Yeah.
and I get what you're
legitimately,
throwing down.
my argument here at its core is there should be a standard difficulty that people have to overcome that should be well within the capability of competent, good teams. Period. Like a Dark Souls game. Dark Souls
Right.
is not made specifically for the hardest of hardcore. Does it cater to them? Yes. In its own weird ways. Yes, it does. But Dark Souls is, if you're competent and you put in the time, dedication to get it done, you can do it. It's not insurmountable.
I agree with you to a certain
specific groups of
extent. We're
people.
like, I hear
Okay.
you on that comparison, but I think where we defer is that
Mhm.
I see Dark Souls as like Rod or like Guarded or like Deepstone, Last Wizard, etc. Versus where Vogue and Kingsfall and Crotali is like Dark Souls New Game +7. Like, we've done this shit a hot number of times. Now we're having to revisit it with, like, specifically Dark Souls 2 New Game +7, where you're going in harder difficulty, and now there's red phantoms everywhere, and there's new challenges to complete, and now you have to go do the DLC where there's new challenges afoot. That's what I think this is more comparable to, where I get where you're throwing down, but I feel like there's enough fairness where once a year you come test your metal in contest mode normal, where it's the brand new raid, where everyone's on the same equal footing. You have no idea what's in this raid, well, unless you look at the data mine, which that's a whole other topic. But like, there's like everyone goes in with no knowledge, no nothing. You're bare bones, and that's it. Same with like with Rod, Vow, Deepstone, Wish, Garden, comparable. Versus with Crota, Vogue, and Kingsfall, where most people who are in the contest mode have done this or have a comparable knowledge of this, because truth be told, I can walk into a GameStop right now and pick up D1 Vanilla off the used shelf, or walk into a mom and pop shop and go get it right now, or eBay, and then load up a PS4 or PS5 and go do Crota, Vogue, and Kingsfall right now. The only one we don't have is Wrath. So I
Bring
think
it back.
Bring it back.
Bring it
There we
back.
go.
Like,
I was
and
wanting
the same
more
rule. Like, of
personally,
course,
but that's just me.
yeah, and I think the same rule should be applied for Wrath, where enough people have an idea of what I think it was Sepix, have enough. No, that's not Sepix. That's something else. But have enough knowledge of what's going on there, where they have to go in there, beat normal, and then they're like, hey, that was a good challenge. We have an idea of what the new challenge is. Now we have to go do the actual challenges
Challenge
to,
mode.
to get the emblem, because that's what we now have to work towards. We know what we're up against. Now we have to stack our metal against what Bungie has tweaked to get that done. I think that's comparable. It's like New Game +7 versus Dark Souls regular.
Your metric, your measuring stick, right? That being your measuring stick.
Yeah.
That players, a competent team of players, should strive to not only beat the raid, but then turn around and then go through and beat it on Master with challenges.
I feel so, yeah.
Start to finish.
Because we know the knowledge of, because we have the knowledge of this raid has already been done before.
Hear me out. Yeah. Does it then make sense for the halfway point to be so hard that the vast majority of teams don't even make it past the halfway point? I mean, would you consider that successful?
I would say so, because like the percentage rates for completing, because some people didn't complete Kingsfall a day on Reprise. Hell, I was in a team of people for Vogue Reprised that couldn't even get in the door of Vogue. Like, some people just are not gonna complete that content.
But that's not your argument here, though. You're not arguing some people. You're arguing the vast majority of teams that like legitimately attempted didn't even make it past the halfway point.
Yeah.
That is a failure of game design. The point of designing a game is to allow players.
I'm like eternally Cajun right now, but I'm trying to humor this because this is a great discussion. This is probably our best discussion we've ever had on the show.
The vast majority of games, as a game designer, you should want people to experience the game that you have designed, right?
Yeah.
You should want them to engage with the content and consume the thing that you have made for them and enjoy it, correct?
Right, and like, but that,
So
but the
that
overall
being
enjoyment of the
thing,
community
if most
is for
players
Sunday.
can't even play it or even engage with it to enjoy it, would you not consider that a failure?
No, because the overall consumption door is Sunday, and we even said that in the Discord.
No. That's not the consumption door.
No.
When
I'm
you're
saying
talking
I'm
about
saying
contest
I'm
mode,
saying the overall consumption of the community will be Sunday and
no,
onward.
that's
where
not what I'm
everybody
talking about. I'm not
no
talking about the
that's what I'm saying.
overall
I'm saying the
community.
overall
I'm saying the
community.
people who come for the challenge
Yeah.
of contest mode, they are coming, like, especially with the as you said it, like New Game Plus, right? The challenge part for them would be challenge mode, having
Right.
to get through the challenges, right?
But
And
at the
they
same
need to
time,
get there. That is
Bungie
a
established
failure of your development.
But at the same time, Bungie established the rules well in advance. Everyone had access to the knowledge. Everyone had access to the TWID. Everyone knew. And granted, we've been very vocal on this podcast that the majority of people don't read the TWID, and Bungie needs to make some kind of like in-game bulletin board at some point. We've been very vocal about
Yeah.
that. But
I think they will.
but like at some point, like I feel like when episodes come out, they're gonna work on that. But at the same time, but we've been very vocal about the fact that more people need to read the TWID. More people, but and Bungie has made the information accessible to the community in one form or another. That ever since VOG, that this has been the rule set. That for reprised raids specifically, whether this was Wrath or whether this was Leviathan or whether this was Crota, whether this was Scourge, because everyone thought this was going to be Scourge 2 months ago. The same rules were going to apply, and if we would have been walking into Scourge or Leviathan on contest mode, the same rules would have applied, and we would have had the same issue as that.
Be the same. My argument would be the same. Legitimately, like it's more of a conversation about like a standard, right? I'm looking to create a standard.
I'm saying the standard was already set before VOG was announced.
When you come to a day one raid, all day one raids should have a standard to them that links them together, right? That being, if you beat the raid on day one, you get the emblem.
Right, and that was the new raid. The rules were established for that with new raid. The new raid is where that old raid.
It should be the same because you should change enough of your raid to actually challenge players that it's not just, hey, look, we remade it and brought it up to date. Here you go. It's a remaster, not a remake. You should add enough into it to change it fundamentally like they did with Crota, which is why I praise it. I know it seems like I'm shitting on it right now, but I genuinely believe, like, if this was the same difficulty, like, for Ron, I would still praise it, like, legitimately. My only grievance is that they made it so unbeatable for the vast majority of people attempting that they never got to attempt the part that is the real challenge of the raid. And if people can only make it halfway through your game, halfway through your content, no matter what it is a failure. If people only make it through half of your book, it's a failure. That in and of itself needs to be a part of how you calculate the difficulty of the contest mode. Like, look, we want players to at least get to fucking challenge mode lanterns before they bottom out. Not just, all right, look, you didn't even beat fucking Bridges encounter for a lot of decently competent teams. Didn't even make it past Bridges. They never got to see the true challenge of the challenge mode product. And that is a failure of design because you want players to engage with that. That's where they test their mettle, not the part of the buy-in. That's like if you made a raid that 80% of the people can't beat the opening encounter, so they just give up. Like, they never got to truthfully experience the raid.
So, like, I love this conversation, and shout out to everybody in chat that's loving this conversation because, like, this is the best back and forth we've ever had. but I feel like I'm trying to be civil and I'm like holding Cajun back. I need to let
Oh.
Cajun. I need to let Cajun
Let him
speak
go.
because I'm internally Cajun, but I'm like civilly Cajun right now. I need to let Cajun speak real quick.
All right.
Keep going.
So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this with my whole ass chest.
Ooh, whole
Speak it.
ass chest. Let's
Contest
go.
mode is meant to challenge you. And if your team couldn't get past the first encounter, that speaks to you and your team. And that's coming from someone who works for a freaking living, came back 6 months ago into this game, freaking busted my butt on top of everything that I'm doing content wise, plus freaking playing the game, plus freaking got a 9-to-5 job and freaking taking care of myself, going through all my personal issues, and still managed to freaking come together with a team. Thank you, Panda, for that. And we managed to get to three encounters out of the 4. Yes, Crota freaking, I said it before at the beginning. He held us down and he freaking said, no, you're not getting through. That means that there's still room to grow for us as players. But that is a 48-hour window. A 48-hour window. Now, I would say your argument has basis. If we go 2 months, let's say 2 months, and Bungie's got the data on the completion rate for freaking Crota under non-contest mode, and they're seeing that freaking massive stopgap right there at the first encounter, absolutely, they dialed it too much. They dialed it too much, and they need to adjust. 100%, I agree with you. But when you're talking about a contest mode, when you're talking about something that is rare, okay, we get it twice a year. Now, I would say you also have an argument if they were to end contest mode the moment it's finished. At that point, yes, you're basically catering to a very select few. And at that point, it's not fair. 100%. But because they've got a 48-hour window, Bungie's saying, hey, community, here's 48 hours. Try this raid at its hardest difficulty.
Best.
If you get it, not only do you get something that says you got it done, but you get loot on top of that. To me, that is absolutely fair.
We got to get the water out.
But here's also the other kicker. Bungie has failed in the freaking LFG department significantly for a long time. And that has caused the raids to be inaccessible. This was something something that freaking games like World of Warcraft failed for the longest time. That even when they did implement LFG, it didn't work out. So what did they have to do in order to resolve the freaking raid situation? They had to make separate difficulties. They made an LFG version that was literally toned down to the point where you could sit there and literally just walk in, stand, spam a button, win. That was it. That was it. But the loot, was minor. Okay, while it could be the same piece of gear that you get in the freaking normal version, the stats and everything were less. To where it still encouraged you to go into normal, but from LFG to normal, it was a different step. And even then, when you went from normal to heroic, it was a massive step on top of that, because then you go from having to learning the mechanics, participating in the mechanics in order to work as a team to get the completion. When you went to heroic, you were testing your mettle, you were testing your communication, your skills, your game sense, your knowledge, to the point where when you got that clear, you deserved it. You didn't get carried. You didn't get freaking walked through that place being handheld. You earned your completion.
Testify.
That is freaking contest mode. And I'm going to say this right now. Bungie, keep contest mode in. Put it on the rotators.
Yes.
Put it on the freaking rotators. That's freaking
Rooter
Nightmare. That's Rooter Nightmare, King's Fall, Deepstone Crypt, all these. Bring the contest mode back. And what you did for Crota's End, apply it.
And the thing about that, I'll even amend that.
Once a week, everybody. And you know what? Let's up the ante. Let's keep the 48-hour window. Let's not make it for the whole week. Let's keep it for the 48-hour window. Contest mode, 48 hours, once a week.
Like when
It's the
Xur drops,
PvE
contest mode's out. I like that.
It's the
I like that.
PvE equivalent to freaking trials.
Ooh, and like literally,
Yeah.
literally, I want to amend that because Tower literally just made that comparison to DMs because she's trying to still be in the chat because I agree with that because that's the one thing that would fix the entirety of the don't put your finger in the light socket issue is everybody thinks they're gonna walk into contest mode and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna try, and they get smacked upside the head. If contest mode was a setting, and everybody, regardless of Salta Greppa, whether it be Aztecross, everyone's been saying this for years, that contest mode should be a setting in the game. And I like that Cajun just said that, and that Tower said it, is that we need to view, and like, remember, I've said this before as a comparison, that Bungie needs to explain elimination in PvP to casual players, that this is the starting entrance before you go to trials. And that's one thing that Bungie has failed on in PvP, is not having a Shaq sound-alike explain to players, Guardian, this is where you go before you go face Osiris. Like, that would fix so many problems. You would see less people with horrible weapons and no exotics walking into trials and getting their butts kicked and feel like they're being gate kept. They would have a area to go get loot and establish their place in the elimination first. Same comparison here. The whole point of challenge mode is, hey, you've raided before, you come in, you do the thing, and then you come in and you with the crack team and do this whole thing for that. And I don't get it twisted either. David's not even saying we're wrong on that side. David's advocating for a reward that's attainable for the people that reach for the goal.
I'm not even like going for the reward. I don't care about the reward. Like whether you get an emblem or not, that's not my problem. I don't care personally. My issue is what is the standard that they want to implement as to be like, what do you need to have, like what echelon of player do you need to be able to complete this thing? It cannot be
I'm saying the
top 10%.
And I'm saying the data was applied at VOG, at the very least, if not VOG, at Deepstone, where you have to have the knowledge, the team, the communication, the builds to go through the content and complete the content. And then Bungie came out at the beginning of, or right before the season of the Splicer, during season of the Hunt, and, or I think it was their 100. No, it was Chosen, where they said, hey, doesn't matter if you're like 12 something up to 13, 14, something like that. You have this whole time frame. You don't have to do a ton of leveling up. You can go in the door and do this, but it doesn't matter if you're 1370 or 1310. You, or whatever the hell it was, your level will be permanently this much ahead of that. And they were very firm on that. The rules were established. The rules were set up clear as crystal, black and white, regardless of how many people read the Twin. The rules were established. Same, like a perfect comparison is when Bungie implemented the Flawless Pool, and no one wanted to read the Twin, and then people didn't know how the Flawless Pool worked, so everyone listened to every content creator and got pissed off at the Flawless Pool, and thought the Flawless Pool was the devil, when in reality, they didn't even know how the Flawless Pool worked to begin with. Yeah. And then when you saw, when they took the Flawless Pool out of the game, like people didn't even know the Flawless Pool was gone. The first 2 weeks of the new system, people were like, cool, we're gonna go in on Sunday and go get our Flawless. No, you not, motherfucker. Like, that's what happened. And it's it's partially negligence because the rules have been it's like there the whole time, but because Bungie doesn't make more avenues to distribute the Twin, that's a partial failure on Bungie. There's blame on both sides of the table. I'm saying the Reprise Championship rules were established the same as the new championship. The failure for a lot of people is that they don't know the rules, and partially that's Bungie's fault, partially it's the player's fault for not enlisting the information. We saw it in our Discord that people didn't know what's up. They didn't know. There was somebody in the Discord today that didn't even know how to craft a weapon because they didn't read the Twin and figure out how to craft. there's certain things that people have failed on because they haven't done the research that people need to do. If you want to invest the time in the game,
I would argue that is a failure of design on Bungie's part.
I'm saying it's a failure on both parts.
Like,
okay, T speak.
Not necessarily.
I want to hear T's point on this.
So, for my experience with Day One Crota, like, I didn't have a full team. I had to keep using LOG. And, I know it's an extremely hard raid, and, that it's a lot harder when you have to pull people that you don't play with or anything. If they can make, like, some sort of system that have requirements before you join an LFG, because that really held me back. This guy came in with tier 2 resilience and fucking Rat King to Crota.
Let's go. My boy said he was
hell. We even we can reference our Rod experience where we had a random dude from Australia join our LFG. He came in with what's the damn thing called? It's in my freaking dim right here. The deterministic chaos. He said deterministic chaos was going to do more damage than Thunderlord, which we knew was fundamentally impossible because Thunderlord was glitched around that time and was doing double damage. So he was out of his damn mind. And he had stasis mods on instead of solar mods on just by running a freaking what was it? What's not Starfire Protocol. He was running Starfire Protocol with stasis mods despite not running a single stasis weapon. He was running Deterministic Chaos. And when we called him on his bullshit, his friend told him, "Hey, yeah, they're kind of right. Your build is kind of whack." And we were all laughing at him. And granted, that I totally agree with T. That is something that I've been saying for a long time for PvP, for high-end PvP and PvE, that you should have to have, like, if you're going into trials, the system should detect if you don't have a targeting mod on or an unflinching mod on or a specific type of weapon, like not like a whole like ban list because that'd be insane. But like same thing for PvE. If you don't have a certain stat level, granted, Dave is insane and runs 0 recovery like a crazy person. Now that's beside the point.
More sane than anybody else.
But in terms of what's going on, like there should be requirements of like you have to know what your build is to a certain extent to get in the door. Granted, that comes off gatekeeping, but if you're going to be such a detriment to your team that we are carrying you on our backs, that is a failure on the player for not understanding the mechanics and not understanding how to build, and you are being a detriment to your team at that point. And that's not a failure on Bungie. That's
understanding and mastery of the game issue.
Yeah.
I'm still advocating for that. That you should have a certain understanding of the game and how to play it to achieve victory. Like, I'm not saying just anybody should be able to come in and get it clear, but there needs to be a standard of how much understanding and ability to like actually perform one needs to have.
And I'm saying that the standard is already in place.
No, I'm saying how you set the difficulty. Like the difficulty of the game cannot be set so that the top 10% of players find this to be a little bit more difficult than usual. That cannot be your measuring stick. Is the enjoyment and satisfaction of the top 10%.
You're talking about a 48-hour contest mode that happens twice a year versus the rest of the content. The rest of the content,
that's just
I'm going to say this, everybody and their mother is capable of clearing. It's a matter of game skill.
At what point should the game be devised solely for a small percentage of the player base?
It's not.
I made that point about a very small part of the game versus the rest of it. Okay,
I made the point from the beginning of the episode that this is the one act like I quoted Datto where like the contest mode is the one time or 2 times a year where the sweats get to play. And the rest of the year, for the majority of the time, it's all fair game, love, and war up until when Season of Seraphim and Season of Defiance came out, where they added the +5 modifier. Other than that, like, hell, we see right now that you, me, and Johnny 2 Brazil can walk into freaking Prestige now and go farm till they're blue in the face. Like you and me, like we saw Blue Arbor players running deep dives. You see players running around the Cosmodrome and getting loot. It like this time of year is for those players, and then contest mode is for sweats. That's their time to put their dicks on the table and fight.
That's just the base game, though.
Oh, sorry.
That's like
No,
saying
it's not the base game.
That's the whole game. That's the whole game.
Deep dives are not supposed to be something that a casual player can complete.
What?
That is the base game. A regular smegular, not tier 7, but a regular smegular deep dive.
Yeah.
One goes
that's everybody.
That's ritual content. Anybody should be able to complete that.
That's what I'm saying. Like everybody has access to that. The casual players have access to all of that.
But there needs to be
like
with any sort of end game content with Destiny, there needs to be some sort of requirements that includes contest mode, that includes trials, because I'll be solo queuing and I'll be busting my ass, and then these two fucking blueberries, bless them, they don't know any better, are just farming armor, are running off to fucking Narnia, and I'm in a 1v3 because they're on the opposite side of the map. That's frustrating.
Agree. That is a 100%.
There needs to be requirements for end game content.
And I'm gonna say this.
A genuine understanding and like level of mastery of the game to complete content.
Right, and that's the requirement. That is the requirement to complete the content, the mastery
of the game,
the build, and that's the requirement right there. Like you literally have said, "I want a requirement," and then you say, "Here's the requirement." That's what you just did.
What I'm saying is the mastery of the game. You can't sit here and be like, "All right, look, we're gonna make this hard and make these checks so difficult that even the top 10% of players find this difficult." When only a very small minority of players are actually attempting the content, like that's unreasonable.
Okay, and Deva, I said this earlier. I agree with you on the participation of content in the overall game, not contest mode, on the overall game, because that was a failure on freaking Bungie's part as far as the freaking lack of LFG and the ability to communicate. Now, I am going to say this, and I agree with T, I agree with freaking Panda. Bungie has not done their due diligence in making sure that players understand the game systems in order to engage in order to play their game and engage with the content. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this right now. Bungie, if you hear this, take your rank system that you got in game and start locking some of the content behind it, and make sure that people understand when they go up through the ranks, they not only got to hit certain milestones, but they have to demonstrate knowledge. Ergo, to go from rank 6 from rank 6 to rank 7, you need to be able to go into freaking Nightfall and complete so many freaking Nightfalls.
Ooh,
okay.
Yes.
I agree.
Or freaking, hey, you need to be able to show that you can get 100 in a stat. And go through a simple quest line that shows, hey, here's a breakdown of all the stats and what they do.
Ooh, I like that.
That way,
that would be so
I don't
great.
know, they understand the bucket system.
Oh my!
So that way, they
because
can
that
start
way,
making their builds
Quad
more
King doesn't have to
intelligent.
keep making videos explaining how the bucket system works.
That right there, that would help the freaking player base, especially the casual player base, to the point that when they, and even locking some of the content behind the rank system, that would also stop one of our biggest gripes that we've all come to agree, that the carrying needs to freaking stop.
Yes.
The carrying through GMs, the carrying through freaking raids, that crap needs to stop. Sherpas, 100%, I'm a 4, and hell, I'm a Sherpa myself. But the carry is doing more harm than good. And the fact that if you block some of the content behind a rank system to where, hey, you have to meet a criteria, you have to show that you can do some of this content before getting into others. I think that's going to start to weed out the freaking people that just want the loot and not put in the effort.
Yes.
But I'm going to say this,
Like, literally
Dava,
the
that you
vast
probably are
majority
not
of
going to
players.
agree with that because you feel like everything should be accessible to everyone.
Everything
Yes
should
and
be
no.
accessible to everyone.
Hell, Tower
Everyone
just said in
should
chat.
have the.
Tower just
Everyone
said in
should
chat.
have the right to attempt.
Yes, Tower just said in chat. Nobody reads Hippie's 100-page breakdown of how armor builds work. Put it in the game. Like you
not?
make Ada 1 be this basic bitch who hands you an armor synthesis. Make
I
Ada 1
perfectly agree.
pay Ada 1 to read dialogue for these people. You think people want to read pages of lore? No, they Bife does it for them. Mylan does it for them. Like, you need to give them audio. Give them something they can look at and listen to visually. Especially
Now
when we're
you're starting to understand my like way of understanding and engaging with this game. There is
Okay.
a vast like player understanding like issue. Too
yeah,
much of
we've
this
spoken about
game
this
is
before, yeah.
explained to the vast majority of players. There are so many players in here who are decent players
Yeah.
who had to find everything out on their own.
Yeah, we did.
The notion that I have to go somewhere else to do a thing to learn how to play the game
It's
is
horrendous.
it's unreasonable. That is a failure on Bungie's part. I agree. I don't
Watson
think
says that there's
that-
Diva with 8 recovery.
like look, and I make it work. That's what I'm saying. You can't add in fundamental barriers of entry that are like, oh, you gotta have this stat. Oh, you gotta have Gallahorn or kick. Oh, you gotta have Gallahorn or you can't play. That incentivizes poor community engagement. It is
Agreed.
Not
Okay,
necessarily.
and I'm gonna
game
say
Ooh,
this.
Hold on,
I'm gonna
hold on.
say that.
I want to hear T's dissent real quick because I like when she cooks. She's been cooking with gas. I want to see what she puts out here.
It's not that we're trying to cut off anybody. It's not that we're trying to gatekeep or you have to use certain landouts. It's like you have to meet that certain DPS threshold to surpass encounters. If you don't meet it, you're holding your team back. I'm sorry, there's no other way to put it.
Herein
Like,
lies my
it
question.
is what it is at that point.
If
Including
I
in trials.
choose to run something that you deem ineffective, right? If I
Mhm.
choose to play the game in a way that you choose to be ineffective, i.e., my 0 recovery, right? Most would deem that me being a bad player. But my mastery of the game allows me to play this particular way and be effective. To
I will counter
actually
that.
do my thing and win.
Wait a second.
And I am not
I will
a
counter that
detriment
statement
to
though,
the
Dave.
team. With
I will
that,
I
under
will
like these arbitrary like gates.
Right,
be
you're an
something that
outlier.
keeps me
You
from
like
playing.
you're advocating for outliers to be punished. I see what you're saying, but let me counter that. Perfect example. And this isn't calling out something like I'm partially calling out a fan of the show, but I'm not trying to like crap on them about this. I was
Okay.
teaching somebody like Crota after contest mode was over, and they couldn't figure out how to do the lament combo, so they asked if they could use Hero of Ages.
Okay.
We know, despite Bungie hyping up the anniversary and all their great anniversary weapons, that similar to how Bequest has been in the pocket, in the collections tab for everyone for 1,000 years, no one is touching Heroes of Ages because Hero of Ages is definitively not optimal, regardless of what you think. Like,
Yes.
and no one's gonna be using that. And she tried to use that as a DPS tool, and she fundamentally held the team back from completing DPS. And it wasn't her fault. It was that she did not have the mastery of the game yet to meet that threshold, and she held the team back unintentionally. And we had to pick up the slack to meet that goal. That is a failure on the part of the person for not understanding the content. So
That is
then,
a failure on the part of the person for not wanting to learn.
right. That's
That's
what I'm saying. So
It's
we're
completely
advocating.
different than
we're
saying,
at-
"Hey, you can't play until you meet the requirements that I deem to be the standard."
But
You
if,
need
but if they
this
don't
rule, that
learn,
rule,
how are they?
and
But if there's no
until you
requirement,
things,
how are they going to be able
cannot
to?
play.
So, but
Because
if
at
there's
that
no
point, they will
requirement sort
never
of
play.
taught to them, And the thing is, we don't even know if she doesn't want to learn.
That's
Hold on, I have an update sound playing because like someone followed. All right, cool. Nice. Well, thank you for the follow. But like it's like and Tower just said in chat, you don't know if she didn't want to learn. We don't know, and I don't know. She's not here to advocate for that. I'm saying that when we're all kind of advocating for there to be, similar to what you were saying, a standard of entry where you have to have I remember we had the conversation previously on stream of the sort of the gym badge system where you had to complete certain things to know how to do certain criteria to beat certain gym leaders to be able. Oh snap! We lost their team.
She bathroom.
Okay. So everyone gets to look at Craig for a minute, but but in terms of like Craig is the recording bot for everyone, but in terms of that, if we just say, hey yo, tier 5 blueberry, you don't know nothing, you don't understand the game whatsoever. You can come into contest mode, and all they are is a detriment to their team. They have no prior knowledge. They have nothing of what's going on, and we have to carry them on their backs. Hell, Watson is in the damn chat. Watson did not have the right setup, the right loadout. He was dying, and we had to make a swap. And it took a while for him to understand that. And he even said just now in chat, I fall into that category of not wanting to go into trials, but he also understands that he doesn't know certain things yet. He has to work on builds, and we had to make that swap. Same thing with Tower. Tower has struggled in certain categories, and she even knew that she had no place going in that in the day one category, and she has room to grow still and whatnot. Some people. You're advocating for, hey, you don't know what your skill level is. You should be able to go in and get your dick kicked in.
Go for fucking broke.
We're saying
people learn best under fire.
But
some people can learn and evolve and actually get better, but they have to attempt it.
But we're saying they should have to meet some criteria that way they're not holding other people back. Because look what happened to us. Watson held us back for a hot minute. It was a detriment to us.
Exactly that. They will do exactly that. Hey, you're not good enough. You can't play with us right now. That is in and of itself, that arbitrary gate that you are saying you want is, I don't feel like I should have to carry people if they can't keep up. You don't have to. You can very well say, hey, look, you got to find another team. And then find somebody who is capable. That is well within the realm of things you can do, and it's fair. I'm not saying you got to carry somebody that can't keep up. If you can't hold your weight, you can't hold your weight, and that's fine. You got to go back. You learn from your mistakes. Come back. Nobody's saying that you got to carry these people. My issue then becomes when people start putting in arbitrary gates, we go back to D1, Black Hammer or Kick. Gallahorn or Kick, and it becomes toxic, and it makes this arbitrary wall that is, you need a pair of scissors to open the pair of scissors that you bought because you didn't have scissors, and then those players either leave because they can't find teams, or they just never learn because they don't have the end to get there, and then it goes to feeding into the issues that we don't like. Cheaters, net limit.
I think Tower just set it on the specific nose though. But that's what non-contest mode is for.
This is even
regular mode. Is for that.
This is even about contest mode. This is about the game fundamentally.
All right, figure out how you play the game
fundamentally though. You're saying that you need to be able to even get into certain content. You need to have played the game and done Nightfalls and all this other stuff just to be able to play other content.
Well, here, hold on. Cajun, speak on it real quick, because we are gonna hitting a brick wall here. I want to see what Cajun says real quick.
So so you're talking about a standard, right? That there should be a standard, for people to get into content. But at the same time, it sounds like if we try to hold people to the standard, it's toxic. Okay,
No.
we're getting a double-edged sword right now.
Right, like you're
Okay,
asking for
so-
a standard to be held, but then you're upset that there's a standard, and it's like
No,
I'm
this-
trying to find what,
okay.
like the compromise
So
here.
let me reassert my position
Okay,
so that it might help you. I feel like to complete something, there needs to be a understanding, like a general understanding and mastery of the game to complete content.
correct.
There should be no gate of entry
All right,
so
I'm
that
back.
people
Sorry.
can't
Very
attempt to do the content because that just locks people out and they never get in. That is bad. But if
Okay,
you
but
as a player
but
don't want to do it,
mastery of content to access other content is in fact of itself a gate.
Yes, like you're
You
going like you're
cannot-
going
you
in a
cannot
circle
have-
right now.
You cannot have something
perfect
there
example.
and then just bypass and say, screw it, I'm going to go in and do whatever the hell I want. You can't have your cake and ice cream and eat it at the same
Perfect
time.
example.
You can't.
Trials
you-
is doing this exact thing right now.
Ooh.
Look,
Explain.
you want to go flawless,
T's about to go
you
off.
can go into trials. You got the practice pool for the players who want to go in and just try their
Ooh, me
hand
and T
and
about to get
play.
hot.
Go in and play and actually try to get better at trials and learn and gain that experience. That's what it's fundamentally for. Or players that don't care about going flawless.
Because because I've explained this to you before how the practice pool is poorly implemented. Despite them explaining it, it's not implemented correctly. Because we know for a fact the practice pool is stated as you have to flaw your card to enter that pool and leave your card flawed to be able to go into the kiddie pool playground. That's not versus what is happening, which is T already stated. Blueberries are running around with whatever the hell they want and not entering that pool and are compromising people's stuff. Similarly to what happened in day one, where people who don't know what they're doing are just messing around in contest mode and have no idea what's going on and being a detriment to their team. It's the same thing. I feel like I'm Mugatu right now. I'm on crazy pills. It's the same. You just put yourself in a box where it's the
Herein
same
lies the
thing.
issue. Those players have gathered enough experience that they want to attempt
How do you
to
know?
go flawless.
That's not the case. We have people in the Discord who have no idea. We have people in Discord who had no idea what contest mode was, had no idea barely what the game was, and went in and got their dicks kicked in. We have people in the Discord who can tell you that, Dava. They did that. It's the same thing as the practice pool situation
They
you just
should
described.
have the right to attempt them. You can't arbitrarily say, hey, you guys don't have the experience, so you don't get to play. That in and of itself is unreasonable. They have the right to attempt. Just because they're not good doesn't mean that they don't get to try. Now, whether or not teams don't kick them, that is different. If you kick them, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to carry them. I'm not saying you as the team, the LFG, are obligated to keep them on your team if you see that they are a detriment.
So basically what you're saying is,
they suck, but they have the right to attempt. Yes.
So basically what you're saying is, we don't have to say Yellowhorn or kick, but if they come in the door and we find out that they don't have Yellowhorn and they're not able to match everybody's DPS, then we can kick them, is what you're saying.
Because they're a detriment to the team. It's not there is no hard gate that says you gotta have a Yellowhorn or get kicked.
Okay, I want to see what T thinks from the trials perspective, because you got both of us kick it right now.
Go ahead.
Like, I get your point that you're worried that it's going to cut people off, but you got to remember there's two other people that experience is going to hurt. Like, even duo queuing. So me and my friend Amy, she was in here. I'm not sure if she's still here. We were duo queuing trials on Meltdown. And we would be together. Like, you don't have to have a lot of experience, but at least stay with the team. They would never stay with the team at all. Do you know how many times I've lost my 7th win because 2 other blueberries were off doing fuck all? Like, at least 3 or 4 times now. And they would be on their first game in, and I'm on my 7th win. It is so fucking frustrating to have to deal with that. And it's nothing against them personally, but if you do not play trials, you need to go in with a partner or a team. something like that to hold your hand, because solo is not the way to go if you don't do it, because it ruins the experience for everybody else, and especially with this new pooling system that they have now, it's so fucking weird. I hate
It's
it.
horrible. It's horrible.
I'm gonna be
And
honest with you. Oh, go ahead. Keep cooking.
it's
I
it's
don't
not
want to
that
cut
you're
you off.
trying to gatekeep it off to anybody. It's just the fact that you're hurting the majority by allowing that to happen. Like, I would look on trial support, and this guy has like uncontested comp division, less than 500 hours in PvP. Like, I was fucked many times with players like that. And it's not that they're bad players, it's just that they need more experience. I was one of those people too, but I never
Of
went
course.
fucking solo in trials because I fucking knew better. I was gonna fuck it for everybody.
And it's
But
like
you see my
As
point?
somebody
I think
who's
like
gotten all of his trials like flawless clears as a solo player who sucks at PvP, mind you. I suck at PvP. I can tell you, LFGing for trials, if you're a solo player and you're just new to the game, go ahead, wrap it up. 2.0 or
Right.
KD or Kick. Like, arbitrary gates are already put in by the community. So
Right.
if you're a solo player and you want to engage with the content, you're telling them by saying, hey, look, either you get good or before you attempt, or you can't come in here and play. It turns into those players being like Diva is now, somebody who can go flawless, but genuinely, I no longer care to engage with the content. Like, because it's not for me. And granted, a lot of players are going to like find their niches. But gatekeeping and saying, hey, look, you suck, so you shouldn't be trying to play.
No, nobody's saying that they
Nowhere
suck.
else.
I think what Dave was trying to say is like he wants free reign for everyone to go get their dick kicked in and then fuck around and find. He wants a fuck around and find out system. He wants a fuck around and find out system. But we're saying that fuck around and find out system is a detriment to the majority of the player base. Like,
Thank
because
you.
that's what.
Thank you.
I think that's
of itself is a detriment to the community because it turns into like coils of Bahamut, Final Fantasy 14, where the player base runs so dry that even the people who are competent don't have teams. Like, the lifeblood of Destiny is its casual player base.
But at the same time,
many
though,
people advocate to cut those people out that genuinely the PvP player pool right now is abysmal because casual players no longer wish to engage.
now let me give you a
Hold
hypothetical.
on. So I'm gonna say this with my whole ass chest right now.
Say it.
When it comes to the PvP situation, the PvP situation is a very complex and a bigger discussion that we want to get into right now.
Right.
Okay.
Like,
because there's so much going on that scene that it's not as simple as casuals don't want to engage with the content. There's so much more to that.
There's a whole other.
But I'm going to say this as someone who has played a crap ton of MMOs for the longest time.
Yes.
If you open up Pandora's box and let the freaking Blueberry, who just started their account 5 minutes ago, have access to every single bit of content, matchmake into every single bit of content, you will see an absolute shit show of a time to the point where the only people that are getting the content cleared are the ones that are forming the group outside and will never use matchmake because of that problem.
Perfect
Because
example.
I'm going to tell you right now, the only way to solve the problem that you're talking about is to make a separate difficulty for all the various contents for these individuals to matchmake into, but at the same time make a non-matchmade version of all that content to where those, such as day one raid teams or clans or Sherpas, are going to take their teams into because they don't want to deal with the absolute freaking complete bare bones individuals that want to play the game. Don't get me wrong. I love them. They want to play the game, enjoy the game, but they don't take the time to read the information that Bungie puts out. They don't take the time to understand what weapons are doing good. When is it a good time to use shotguns and fusion rifles versus a trace rifle? When is it a good time to be using a primary? When's it a time to use a rocket launcher versus a fusion rifle? It's that type of knowledge for some of this higher content that not just any random Blueberry can go running into. And when you open up that door it's going to make the game into a shittier situation than what it currently already is.
And perfect example of this, it's kind of already kind of materialized because if you like, and T and I can protest to this. It's kind of what's happening to trials right now, where they not only took away the flawless pool, but they took away card-based matchmaking, and they added fire team based matchmaking on top of that. Where the minute fire team based matchmaking became a thing, you saw people fleeing and making sure they had triple stack teams to make sure they evaded the 2 stacks and the randoms, or they don't mess with it, or which is the reverse option, which people don't want to face those hardcore players, so some of the hardcore players do solo queue to avoid that system. It's sort of materialized already where people are trying to either take advantage of the shitty players, or if they want the challenge and have the right competitive seed, there's triple stacking to face that competitive seed. Like what Cajun said just made perfect sense. I get what you're saying. You want accessibility to everybody, but when do we finally put the nail in the door and say, hey, you are becoming a detriment to everybody? And then if they become a detriment to everybody, it becomes a chicken before the egg, or a dragon eating its own tail of, we like that environment creates the Gallahorn or kick of like, hey, you're being a detriment to us, you're gone. You're being kicked. And then we have people who have come into the Discord recently who say, I've been kicked from multiple teams for not having good DPS, or not having this or that, or this thing or that, and I've been a detriment to my team, and people are being toxic to me. And it's a dragon eating its own head, and we can go on for hours about this. Like at that point, it becomes a fundamental issue of game design, where some games are Pokemon and some games are Elden Ring, where you can go fight whoever the fuck you want from jump. And it's like, or better comparison would be, some games are Pokemon Red and some games are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where like you can go fight whatever gym leader you want.
My question, that being exactly what you just said, right? Why not advocate for Bungie to do a better job of teaching its players how to play its game? Other than, hey, we put out a weekly newsletter every week on our app. Why don't you go read that so you can know like all the upcoming changes? Like, why is there no in-game? Like,
we've already talked about that. That's beside the point.
Yeah,
we've beat that drum multiple times, and even tweeted to Bungie about that.
I'm gonna say this. I agree with Twizzy in chat right now.
That's your responsibility as a gamer. Twizzy just said it in chat. Like, if you accepted the TOS, you have to be able to communicate and know certain things. Same thing with the trials thing. Where some people didn't know what flawless pool was. They listened to a couple of crappy YouTubers and crucified flawless pool on a cross. And then when flawless pool was gone, they're like, where's flawless pool? I'm not liking trials anymore. Where's flawless pool? And because they didn't read the twin, they're at a detriment. So it's sort of like, at what point do we say not get good, but when do we say you need to put the work in, you need to be a player, and instead of, because we don't want to be toxic. We never advocate for toxicity. When do we say put your foot first, put your work in, and put the necessary work in? Because you can only lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. It becomes it's that you can lead them as far as you can. We've said multiple times in the show that Bungie is at fault for a good chunk of the communication barrier. Some of it's not their fault that they're at a detriment for, because some of them are being sent death threats and shit. But at the same time, some of this stuff is at their fault. But in other cases, they've led the horse to the water. But sometimes motherfuckers don't drink. And at that point, you kind of have to be like, hey, put the work in or don't play the game. And it's like, you don't want to be that person, but you kind of like how we had to do Watson, where it's like, hey, I gave you soft love at first and explained, hey, you can come back later and we'll help you later when your builds are better. And then it got to a point where finally we said, you gotta go. It's the same thing, where you have to be able to say, hey, yo, you have to come back later when you're better at the game. And I know you're looking for a free market where everyone can fuck around and find out, but if it's to the point where it's a detriment to everybody, at some point you're gonna hear that Gallahorn or Kick story, and it might not be a real Gallahorn or Kick story. So it's like it's a really like double-edged sword, like Cajun said. But like we've gone back and forth. We've sort of hit an impasse. I kind of want to like give each encounter a rating since we're hitting about 2 hours here on the show.
Go right on ahead.
Lanterns, in terms of rework and experience, how does everybody feel? T, you start.
I think it's great. It's better than just running away from something that's going to explode and fighting off Thrall. Like, honestly, I like how they made it a little bit more challenging with the meatballs.
Yes.
And the constant passing of buffs.
David, how do you feel?
I concur. Like James, I relatively enjoyed the new mechanics. It forces people to stop with the like I'm just here for a clear behavior, and actually forces people to actually talk and engage with each other and get people talking. I like it. I like to see Bungie changing player behavior. Let's fucking go. Keep it up, Bungie.
Cajun, your thoughts on Lanterns?
Okay, Lanterns. I never played D1, so I went into this completely blind. What they did with Lanterns, I think, is good. I think they overtuned Lanterns.
Ooh.
And I'm gonna say this, okay? To me, when it comes to Lanterns, there's just way too much going on. And I said this at the beginning, before the podcast. This first encounter, like, to me, a raid should build up. And Crota's End, I'm gonna say this right now, it feels like it builds down, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because
let that
if you either adjust one item in Lantern, whether it's the visibility, the meatballs, or maybe the timer for engulfs, it's not as crazy as the freaking is. Because right now, as it stands, and I learned that today, doing a Sherpa run
is rough.
This is going to be an extremely challenging time for a lot of Sherpas. Because even right now, and I reached out to some Sherpas, they're trying to find optimal routes because there's bugs with eager edging, even with strand, even if everybody's doing stranding, freaking launching over pendulums, that's even not a guarantee that someone's not going to freaking die for some stupid oddball reason. And even then, there have been a couple of bugs with the freaking enlightenment to where it's like, if there's one death at a bad location, it's a freaking wipe.
Okay, I see what you're saying. My quick thought on Lanterns is the only things I would change. This is something specifically for the whole raid. Put the chalice meter somewhere else.
Thank you.
Because you have well modifier, you have banner of war, you have everything else that pops on your left side. Put it on the right side. Put the meter on the right side of your screen, and then specifically for Lanterns, just sort of tighten that hitbox for the pendulum a little bit. Because one thing I kept saying during Sherpa runs was, just because you think you're away from that pendulum, you're not. So tighten that hitbox a little bit on them balls, and I'm fine. I love everything about it. I love that it forces communication. I love that it puts you under pressure. I love that it makes you think, and it stops what I've coined the Ron sickness, the Ron syndrome, where everyone thinks all they have to do is add clear. I love it. Bridge, Cajun, Bridge, how you feeling?
Bridge to me felt good. Bridge to me felt balanced out of all the encounters.
Agreed.
It felt like it was one, good communication. It required good communication. It also required good knowledge, as well as at times it challenged the individual players to be able to stand on their own. Mm-hmm. So this was a testament of not only good teamwork, but also good solo work as well. Mm-hmm. So to me, this was a very balanced encounter, and what they did, chef kiss.
Okay. See, how you feeling?
Honestly, I really liked Lanterns. I didn't think it was. I mean, it was a little bit. It was busy, but they had to make it busy because if you did it, oh shit, I'm back in Lanterns. Okay, I'm on Bridge now. Sorry. I'm up to speed. Sorry, my brain went bloop. Bridge was actually not that bad. I mean, the contest mode, it was extremely challenging, but I like the fact that you've always had to keep busy. Somebody always had to have a buff.
Mhm.
Somebody always had to be doing something, like totems. When you had 3 people on the other side, now they had to stand on totems, and somebody fuck it up by stepping on mid plate on the other side, and no, there's nobody on totems that caused a wipe. I really liked that. It was challenging. It was worth it to me.
I dug
Like
that.
that's what I really enjoyed.
Dave, how you feeling?
It was too easy.
Okay.
I know that's a controversial way to look at it, but
Okay.
genuinely, Bridge was too easy. I know a lot of people struggle with it, but I genuinely believe that it is a mastery, like Cajun said, a test of whether or not you can keep up comms, balance, juggling a buff, and like standing on your own for like ad clear. But genuinely, a lot of people just stood around killing ads the whole time. Genuinely, I think that's too easy.
You
I
know,
feel like they could have
But-
spiced it up a bit.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, the fact that some of the things that they were throwing at the players, even
Like
barrier
Gatekeeper?
champions, even the freaking barrier champions and how often those were coming out. I'm gonna tell you right now, there are some players they can't handle a barrier champion by themselves.
yeah.
Actually,
I will
No,
say
that's true.
I will
That's a
say
knowledge check.
I agree with everything that was said here, ironically enough, because similar to how it reminded me of totems, it reminded me of Gatekeeper from Vogue, where some people don't know how to handle an overload champion by themselves on a plate. Some people don't know how to hold their own on and stand their ground. So, but other people are running a buff around and doing 5 different things. So, if I had it my way, I'd make the drop into the pit start at the bridge, and then you walk into lanterns. That's how I change that up. But that's just my 2 cents. Ear you. I'm gonna start first because I have the most praise for Ear you as someone who did D1. They finally made the bitch a threat. Oh
Yeah.
my God. They finally made the bitch a threat. And man, I love it. I will say the only thing I don't enjoy is they need to like tighten the door hitbox, because if someone just runs too close to that door while they're trying to run to a different door, they lose enlightenment. And that's a bit of a con. But otherwise, Ear Ute is like my favorite encounter because it makes you test your metal. It makes you think. It makes you have a great DPS check. I love it. The one thing I love differently from planets is if you don't hit your DPS check, it's not just reset and try it again. It's you fucked up, restart. And I like that. I like that a
Yep.
lot. T, how you feeling?
I agree. I agree with that. Like playing
Hell
it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cajun, how you feel about Ear You, your favorite girl?
So, Air you were right on the money. Great DPS check, number 1. Number 2, I do agree that freaking hitbox on the doors, they gotta freaking tweak that crap.
Let's tighten it a little bit.
Outside of that, it was a good encounter. This was the next balanced one in my opinion.
Cajun? Not Cajun. Dave, I'm tripping. We've been going too long. Dave, how you feeling?
Mixing me up. Oh my dear.
This was your
Oh my
Mothman
God.
era. This was your Mothman era. How you feeling?
Genuinely, I thought it was pretty fun. Like, I think the challenge was there. I felt like they definitely could have like tuned it a little bit better. I felt like the way that the battlefield was set up is for especially dealing with ads and the such. I felt like it was a little undercooked. It was too much standing around for me. Like
Fair.
people
I'll
literally
give
just
that.
stood in the middle room, cleared ads until we figured out where to go. There definitely could have been more movement on that front, and I feel like that would have definitely helped teams diversify their plan of action. But genuinely, once you got the mechanic down, it was like a fucking cakewalk.
I will agree with that. I will say, I think the one thing I would fix about Ear Ute, make a definitive creature be killed to trigger shriekers, not like a random amount of knights. That's the one thing I would change, because one thing that we kept dealing with during contest mode is how many knights trigger the shriekers, and sometimes no knights would even go to one side. I think that's the one thing I would change is make it like if anything, make it an anti-barrier that comes out on both sides. Kill an anti-barrier, pop a trigger, go in and grab the chalice. Make a definitive creature that you kill to open the shrieker. That's like the one thing I would change. Crota, I will say, my favorite moment. Shout out to Fallout Plays for announcing the Stronghold strat at 11 p.m. on Saturday, because man, it was so funny too. Because Cajun had a great idea of, hey, why doesn't a group of motherfuckers just hold fucking Lament endlessly and block damage while someone runs in with a sword, only for Fallout to drop a video 5 seconds later saying, hey, why don't you come like just run Stronghold with Lament and hold the sword infinitely? And I was like, bet I'm gonna do it. And I sat there like, you can't kill me, motherfucker. And it was so much fun. So that was my favorite part. But also, it was so satisfying killing him, man. Everything about contest mode felt balanced. I felt like even if it wasn't the Stronghold strat, you needed someone to occupy Crota to a certain extent, because in contest mode, he would just rain fire and it was a pain in the butt. And if your team wasn't cranked to the nines, Crota was gonna end you. I feel like Crota was perfect in every way. If your team wasn't baked to the nines, it was perfect. I loved it. Dave, I'll let you start because you've been starting last couple times.
I don't mind going last. It's fine. No. As far as like Crota went, I think I really enjoyed the fact that the Crota encounter on day one really like turned the general like raid strategies for DPS and encounter running upside down. That being like getting teams to understand like, look, it's not a fucking race to a finish. It's more about like pacing the encounter and not like sprinting through the encounter to get to the end. Because I noticed a big issue we were having was like we were so busy trying to rush down the encounter to be done with it or to get to damage phase that so much we ended up causing ourselves a lot of problems. And I really enjoy that. Like changing player behavior will always be like top tier on my list of shit. And I feel like Crota really did that. It really got people out of the mindset of like rush to get stuff done. Genuinely top tier.
Fair enough. Cajun?
So contest mode, it definitely felt like an absolute challenge, and it was, you know. Now, talking from the contest mode clear, I feel like they need to tune Crota a bit more in the upward direction, in the harder difficulty.
Oh.
Because look, we announced it earlier and we said it. I went Florida man. I was able to freaking 2-man or 1-man, both towers, jump down, kill ogres. I was able to take care of that to where basically the team just had to sit there, trade the chalice, and we only needed 2 swords to crack his shield.
That's true.
And then with freaking, you could either use Legend of Acrius or you could use freaking Bequest.
Bequest has come out of nowhere.
Right, exactly. Or even still Lament, if you know the combos and you got surges, you could freaking one-phase Crota. And to me, for an end boss, that should not be the case. Yeah. Like, if you're absolutely cracked out and skilled, oh, absolutely. But I'm seeing a lot of freaking LFGs get into there and one-phase them pretty freaking easily. It's like, come on. They could have dialed this up a little bit more in the normal mode. Contest mode felt great. Normal feels a bit lackluster, and I think Bungie could have done that a bit more.
Okay.
Like I said, my only gripe with the whole raid is lanterns. Everything else, Brage and Deathsinger, great. Crota, it felt like,
Okay. See?
I agree with Cajun. It was too easy. Honestly, like y'all go on the swords, like the first time we ever did it, we almost one-phased him. And this was on normal mode. And everybody was like, what the fuck is this? And then we went back in and then did it again. And then he was done.
Damn.
Granted, I died because I'm accident prone, but he still died very quickly. It was I think it needs to be a little
fair enough. Okay. All right. Well, final grades, folks. I'm thinking a good like 8.5 out of 10. I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10. I'm gonna go with 9 out of 10. How y'all feeling?
I go 8.5.
7.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
would-
Fair enough.
I'd say 9, only 1 point because Crota's a little bit easy.
Fair enough. Okay.
Are we talking about normal mode or contest?
I'm saying
Normal.
overall in terms of the changes, in terms of everything. I'm
Overall.
saying 9 out of 10 for changes, for difficulty, for making it a competent rate. I say 9.
8.5 then for both.
Yeah,
modes.
if group consensus is 8.5, we'll call it 8.5 for group consensus. So Cosmodrome Radio rating 8.5 out of 10.
Yep,
That's how we go
that's
with it.
fair.
T, you are the guest. What is your closing statement for this episode of Cosmodrome Radio?
I had fun. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And,
All right,
you know,
sweet.
talking about all the different points. I can't wait to come back.
Hell yeah, next week's gonna be awesome. All right, Cajun, how are you feeling? What is your closing statement after everything? Sour type your closing statement.
Crota contest mode was a freaking great step in the right direction. I think as far as the contest mode overall, Crota rework and Crota's End in Destiny 2. Hey, community, you better be careful what you wish for next time. And you better be careful not to freaking talk some smack, because guess what? Bungie just showed y'all. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it because a lot of y'all are eating freaking foot right now. And y'all starting to realize how nasty your feet are. Anyways.
Fair enough. David, how you feeling?
My final statement. Community, always remember that, a challenge is never a bad thing. I know a lot of people feel like absolute dog water right now, but remember that challenges are here to spice up the game. And just because you didn't get it done this time doesn't mean you won't get it done next time. But don't absolutely go apeshit on people because they're like, "Oh, I enjoyed the challenge." Let them have their fun, and let's remain civil, or as civil as possible.
Fair enough. I want to say I think this was the challenge that everybody needed to a certain extent. I think that this raid will end Ron syndrome, as I have coined it. The age of ad clear is over, and we are on to greener pastures. We will be back next week for a brand new episode. We have decided that next week's going to be a PvP summit. So we're going to curate the guest list and get that probably set up by Tuesday at Reset. So we will be making announcements about who will be here for the PvP summit. I'm hoping for at least a full fire team, if not 7. So that'll be a dope experience. We'll be back for a good time. And don't forget, folks, that you can catch this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Hopefully, in the next 24 hours, the audio version will be live. But you still have 42 other episodes that you can listen to right now on your audio platform of choice. And you can follow us on Twitter at Cosmodrome Radio. And if you're looking for brand new merch, matter of fact, I'll pull it up real quick while I'm sitting here because I want to make sure everyone sees how dope this shirt is. Because man, Sketch worked their butt off. You look at this art, and if you look at this, I'm gonna go ahead and just matter of fact, let me just do it like this. I'll do it like this real quick because I know we gotta wrap the show up. Window caption.
I gotta get going, man.
All right, bet. So yeah, Cajun's gonna roll out, but can we just take a minute and look at the quality of this shirt? Make sure you cop that if you are looking for the Crota's End raid shirt for the Cosmodrome Radio. We got our mascot Craig sitting there hanging out with us. But we will be back next week for a brand new episode, folks. Peace out.